Chapter 1381. 1381 The Almighty from the Yuan continent. The Lever 3 Martial Royal Realm expert of the Wang family formed a huge palm and aimed at Long Chen, trying to catch him. Leave Long Chen behind. At this moment, a third-level Martial Royal Realm expert from the other clans of the South God Palace arrived. He also stretched out his palm to grab Long Chen. The two huge palms grabbed Long Chen at the same time, and their power exploded. Boom! The terrifying palm force landed on Long Chen's body. Although Long Chen's Archean dragonesque elephant bloodline was abnormal and his combat strength had increased greatly, he was still far from being a Lever 3 Martial Royal Realm expert. The Archean dragonesque elephant roared and then collapsed, revealing Long Chen's true body. At that moment, Long Chen was extremely weak, and his eyes were filled with intense unwillingness. He was a heaven's favorite of his generation, but he ended up being manipulated by others. How could he be willing? In the distance, Lu Ming's eyes flickered as he pondered about the possibility of saving her. In the end, Lu Ming shook his head and did not make a move. There were too many powerhouses here. There were more than a dozen Lever 4 Martial Royal Realm powerhouses. If he attacked, even if he could catch Long Chen by surprise and capture him, he would not be able to escape the pursuit of more than a dozen Lever 4 Martial Royal Realm experts. At that time, he would not be able to save anyone, but he would also be killed. Take Long Chen away. The other experts all pounced toward Long Chen. Most of them were from the Northern Divine Palace. As long as they could take Long Chen away, they could break out of the encirclement. Don't even think about it. The experts of the South God Palace would not give up so easily, and they also pounced toward Long Chen. Long Chen was in the center of the storm, as if he would be torn apart at any moment. Buzz! At this moment, a strange fluctuation spread out in the sky. This fluctuation wasn't very strong, but it enveloped the entire South God Palace as soon as it appeared. A shocking scene happened. All the people from the Southern and Northern Divine Palaces, including the experts in the 4th level Martial Royal Realm, who were in the middle of a great battle, seemed to have been frozen in the air. Not only that, Lu Ming and the rest, as well as the entire South God Palace, seemed to have been frozen in place. They could not move at all. Time and space seemed to have stopped at this moment. This is... Lu Ming was extremely shocked. He felt that the space around him had turned into a material substance and wrapped around him, making him unable to move at all. Even the mental energy fire in his sea of consciousness seemed to have frozen. The rest of the people were similar to Lu Ming. Their eyes were filled with fear and disbelief. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect to meet such a talent on this remote island. A loud laugh came from the sky. A burly old man as strong as an elephant leisurely stepped through the air and walked to Long Chen. His small eyes were sizing up Long Chen. He has actually awakened the Archean dragonesque elephant bloodline. He's just right to be the successor of my divine elephant sect. It's really a waste of talent to stay on this wild island. The burly old man reached out his hand, and a surge of energy poured into Long Chen's body. All of a sudden, all of Long Chen's injuries were healed. Long Chen had also regained his freedom. Long Chen looked at all the powerhouses who were frozen in the air in shock. His eyes were full of horror. All of this was clearly the work of this burly old man. He didn't see how the old man made his move, but he was able to freeze so many experts in the air, and even countless people in the entire South God Palace. Such a method was simply unheard of and unimaginable. Kid, I'm the Grand Elder of the Divine Elephant sect in the Yuan continent. How about you take me as your master? Your bloodline can only be fully displayed in my sect. The tall and sturdy old man said. Yuan continent's Divine Elephant sect. Long Chen's heart skipped a beat. Without hesitation, he knelt down and said, Disciple Long Chen greets master. This was obviously an unrivaled figure. If he didn't acknowledge him as his master now, when would he? As for Dragon God Valley, Long Chen had also heard that it seemed to have been destroyed. Ha, good, get up, The burly old man was overjoyed and laughed towards the sky. His long beard fluttered in the wind. After a while, he said, "Disciple, let's go. Follow me back to the Yuanlu continent." Without waiting for Long Chen's reply, he waved his hand and disappeared with Long Chen. As soon as the old man left, the pressure disappeared, and everyone regained their ability to move. Buzz! Whoosh! As soon as everyone regained their mobility, the South and North God palaces gathered together and looked at each other. It was obvious that the tall and sturdy old man was a supreme almighty from the Yuan continent. His strength was unbelievably powerful. Moreover, their target, Long Chen, had already been taken away by this old man. He had even taken him in as a disciple. It could be said that they had used a wicker basket to draw water. Since Long Chen was gone, there was no need for them to continue fighting. "Wang Sheng, get lost to the North Deity Palace," someone coldly shouted. Wang Sheng's expression was unsightly. This time, the one who suffered the greatest loss was Wang Sheng, the Wang family. Now, the Wang family and the Southern Deity Palace had already shed all pretenses of cordiality, so they could only move to the Northern Deity Palace. Originally, if the North God Palace could seize Long Chen this time and enter the Divine Ruins with the mixed energy token, the Wang family would have a share of the treasures they obtained, and they could even make up for it. But now, Long Chen had not been captured. If they moved to the North God Palace, it would be a great loss. After all, the Wang family had been in the South God Palace for countless years and was one of the top 10 families. Moving to the North God Palace meant that they couldn't enter the center of power in the North God Palace. The losses they would suffer were unimaginable. Wang Sheng was so depressed that he wanted to vomit blood. "Lu Ming, you must take down that Lu Ming. Only then can I make up for my losses." Wang Sheng's eyes flashed with a sinister look. After that, the people of the North Divine Palace left, and the battle ended. In the crowd, Lu Ming retreated silently. What happened this time was beyond his expectations. However, it was a great fortune for Long Chen to be accepted as a disciple by a big sect in the Yuanlu continent. A day later, Lu Ming's second body met up with his main body. Soon, the news that Long Chen had been taken in as a disciple by a supreme almighty of a major sect in the Yuan continent and left the continent of the Divine Ruins spread like wildfire. After Long Chen left, the remaining people naturally targeted Lu Ming. Now, Lu Ming was the only one left with the primordial chaos token. North, South, East, West, the 4 divine palaces, and experts from other continents joined in the search for Lu Ming. There were all kinds of means. Even if Lu Ming had the illusionary breath technique, he was almost discovered. Another time, Lu Ming appeared to attract the attention of others and was besieged by a group of experts. He only managed to break out of the encirclement after a big battle. Lu Ming appeared in an area filled with demonic qi and met up with Xian Yanqing. "Lu Ming, in a few months, there will be strong cultivators from the major sects of the Yuanlu continent coming to pick us up. Although Dragon God Valley has been destroyed, you can come with me to the Tianyu demonic sect. I don't think the people from the continent of the Divine Ruins will dare to do anything to you," Xian Yanqing suggested. Lu Ming shook his head. "Even so, I can protect myself. But I have not joined a major sect in the Yuan continent. I have no power to deter the people from the Divine Ruins. After I leave, some people might make a move on the Divine Wilderness continent." "Lu Ming, what do you plan to do?" Xian Yanqing asked, frowning. Chapter 1382. 1382 Chapter 1382 Setting up the overall situation. "Kill." Lu Ming's eyes flashed with a cold light. "Kill, I have to kill. Before I leave, I have to make everyone tremble in fear. It's best if I can kill all the sovereigns above the 3rd level of the martial royal realm. Only then can I ensure that the Divine Wilderness continent is safe. Only then can I go to the Yuan continent in peace." The killing intent in Lu Ming's eyes grew colder and colder. In the end, there was a flash of madness. Kill. Lu Ming wanted to kill all the experts above the third-level martial emperor realm on the Divine Ruins continent. If others heard this, they would definitely think that he was crazy. The entire continent of the Divine Ruins was filled with experts. There were many level 4 martial royal realm experts. How could Lu Ming kill them with his cultivation? Even Xian Yanqing was shocked by Lu Ming's words. Right now, I'm no match for a level 4 martial royal realm expert. Therefore, I'll need to cultivate in seclusion during this period of time. Also, when the time comes, I'll set up a fatal formation in advance. There might be a chance. Lu Ming said. He decided to take a gamble. With his current combat strength, even if his main body and secondary body joined forces, he was not a match for a level 4 martial royal realm expert. He needed to increase his strength. After this period of cultivation, his pure spirit body had reached 90% completion and was only a step away from 100% completion. As long as the pure spirit body reached perfection, its power would increase even more. At the same time, Lu Ming's strongest killing move was the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. During this period of time, Lu Ming had already cultivated all 5 types of martial arts techniques to the 6th highest level. Now, Lu Ming had already begun to cultivate the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. As long as he could successfully cultivate the Primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal, its power would be extremely astonishing. At that time, he would be able to set up the killing formation in advance and kill the level 4 martial royal realm expert. Xian Yanqing knew that Lu Ming was a decisive person. Since he had already made up his mind, he would definitely do it. She did not say much but secretly decided to strengthen her cultivation and increase her strength so that she could help Lu Ming as soon as possible. Now, there were still 4 months left before the 2-year agreement with the major sects of the Yuanlu continent. After that, Lu Ming's main body entered the mountain and river diagram. Xian Yanqing kept the mountain and river diagram and turned around to enter the place filled with demonic qi. As for Ming Lian's second body, he had left. In the days that followed, Ming Lian would occasionally appear to attract the attention of others, but he would always disappear as soon as he appeared. He would hide his identity and inscribe inscriptions in a secret place, inscribing a killing formation. As for the main body, it had always been cultivating arduously. Time passed day by day. In the 2nd month of his closed-door cultivation, Xian Yanqing's cultivation broke through to the Supreme Being level. Not long after Xian Yanqing's breakthrough, Dandan and Bubbles woke up one after another. Furthermore, the aura that Dandan and Bubbles revealed when they woke up was extremely shocking. They were both Emperor Realm auras. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Dandan and Bubbles were genuine top 10 battle beasts with extremely terrifying combat strength. Although they had just broken through to the Emperor Realm, their combat strength was hard to estimate. When Dandan heard that a level 4 martial royal realm expert was chasing after Lu Ming, she even declared that she would kill him with a single slap. She was extremely arrogant. Lu Ming did not believe it. After fighting with Dandan, he realized that he was not her match at all. Ha, Lu Ming, let's see how you can be so arrogant in front of me in the future. In the future, you'd better listen to me obediently. Dandan was very proud of herself, with a pair of front claws behind her back. Bang! The next moment, he was kicked over by Bubble and rolled dozens of times on the ground. You, little guy, you dare to attack me. Dandan's arrogance did not last for more than 3 seconds. She got up from the ground and glared at Bubbles. Chirping. Bubbles stood on Lu Ming's shoulder and looked at Dandan with her dark eyes. The bubbles on the tip of her nose were one big and one small, as if she was telling Dandan, come at me if you have the ability. Dandan was fuming with anger, but Bubbles was a spacetime spirit mouse that could control spacetime. He was really helpless against Bubbles. Chirping. The bubble cried out, curled up its body, and rolled around on Lu Ming's shoulder. Sigh, it seems that I should give all the spiritual herbs to Papeo in the future. He's so obedient. Lu Ming muttered. Dandan immediately cowered, revealed a flattering smile, and called out, "Lu Ming, don't." No, I was just joking with you." Lu Ming ignored Dandan. He looked into the distance and a murderous intent flashed in his eyes. "Then this time, let's make it bigger." Dandan's battle strength was above his. She was definitely not weaker than the Lever 4 Martial Royal Realm, or even stronger. In addition to the bubble's space-time concept, no, it should be the wonder of the space-time domain. Lu Ming planned to go all out. After that, he continued to cultivate. When there was still half a month before the arrival of the major sect emissaries, Lu Ming finally mastered the martial technique comprehended by the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. It's time to act. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. After that, Lu Ming and Xian Yanqing left the area and came to a huge lake. Previously, he had secretly carved a killing formation near the lake and spent several months to finally complete it. This was a killing formation that had been passed down from a profound sky saint, and its power was terrifying. With the cultivation of the inscription clone, it took several months to complete the inscription, which showed its power. "It's time to spread the news," Lu Ming muttered. Then, Ming Lian stepped into the air and left. Not long after, an explosive piece of news spread throughout the Divine Ruins continent. Someone had discovered the place where Lu Ming had been secretly cultivating in seclusion. Once this piece of news was released, the Divine Ruins continent was in an uproar. "Let's go and capture Lu Ming. This time, we can't let him escape. Seal that part of the world." The experts spoke one after another. The Southern Divine Palace, Northern Divine Palace, Eastern Divine Palace, Western Divine Palace, and the Blood Sun continent, which was ranked second and third, and so on. Countless experts gathered at the lake where Lu Ming was. Lu Ming was sitting cross-legged on the surface of the lake. At this moment, he suddenly opened his eyes. "They're here." Lu Ming's eyes flashed. "See La." Hiss. The space around them cracked continuously, and one figure after another stepped out of the space. At the same time, a terrifying aura spread out. Powerhouses were all powerhouses, and even the worst of them were martial emperors. There were more than 500 people. This was a shocking number. There were more than 500 emperors. All 4 divine palaces had come, along with some experts from other continents. Lu Ming was surrounded by people. The space seemed to have frozen. Lu Ming did not have the slightest chance of escaping. "Lu Ming, where can you run to?" From the north, a person spoke, but it was Wang Sheng. "Who said I'm running?" Lu Ming got up and stood on the lake, looking around coldly. Most of the third-level martial royal realm powerhouses in the Divine Ruins continent group had arrived, right? "You're not running." "Hee, it seems like he knows he can't escape." Wang Xing sneered. "Hee." Lu Ming sneered and directly ignored Wang Sheng. His eyes swept across the room and his voice was heard, "You guys coming here is nothing more than wanting the primordial chaos token to enter the Divine Ruins and obtain treasures, that's all. I can tell you all that the Divine Ruins core indeed has countless treasures." Chapter 1383. 1383 You're all trash. The Divine Ruins core is indeed filled with countless treasures. Lu Ming's words made everyone's eyes light up and they were tempted. Of all the people here, only Lu Ming had entered the core of the Divine Ruins, and only he had the right to speak. "The reason why my cultivation advanced so quickly is because I obtained a supreme treasure in the Divine Ruins core." Lu Ming continued to speak, making everyone's hearts burn with passion. That's right, Lu Ming was originally just a young man from the Divine Wilderness continent, but he was able to suppress everyone and stand at the peak of the younger generation in the Divine Ruins continent. Now, he was even more amazing, killing martial sovereigns as if he was chopping vegetables. This was too inconceivable. Everyone attributed all of this to the Divine Ruins core. It was definitely so. Lu Ming must have obtained a treasure in the core of the divine ruins to have such results. Mixed essence token. Everyone was staring at Lu Ming, wishing they could eat him up. However, no one made a move for the time being. There were so many people here, and the 4 divine palaces had gathered. Everyone wanted the mixed essence token, so they were all apprehensive about each other. Who should I give the mixed essence token to? How about this, I surrender and join one of your sides, helping you all enter the divine ruins core. The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled into a cold smile as he spoke. The eyes of the people from the 4 great divine palaces lit up. However, everyone immediately became wary of each other. If Lu Ming really joined one of them, he would definitely be attacked by the other 3. Don't fall for this brat's ploy to sow discord. He's trying to incite us to make the first move. A loud shout rang out. Lu Ming looked over and realized that the one who spoke was the sea-suppressing marshal of the southern deity palace, Hai Pingtian. Hai Pingtian looked at Lu Ming with a face full of hatred. That's right, he wants us to fight so he can find a chance to escape. The others chimed in. These people were old monsters who had lived for thousands of years or even tens of thousands of years. They were very sharp and could read Lu Ming's mind. I suggest that we take down Lu Ming first and cripple his cultivation. Then, the 4 great divine palaces will jointly manage it. Anyway, there are divine ruins near the 4 great divine palaces. We can take turns to use Lu Ming and enter the divine ruins to explore. Won't that do? Wang Xing opened his mouth and gave a suggestion. I think we can. I agree. The others also spoke up and reached an agreement. Lu Ming, your little scheme is useless in front of us. You'd better surrender obediently. This is your fate. Hai Pingtian sneered. Is that so? Lu Ming's expression remained calm as his plan to sow discord had failed. He glanced at Hai Pingtian and said, then make your move, come and take me. You. Seeing Lu Ming's confident look, Hai Pingtian almost made a move. However, he held back at the crucial moment. This kid is full of tricks. Since he's so calm, maybe there's a trap here. He has a clone who's good at the Tao of inscription. Maybe he set up a killing formation here. Hai Pingtian analyzed after calming down. That's right, we must guard against this. The other level 4 martial royal realm expert said. What's wrong? You don't dare to make a move. What a useless piece of trash, as timid as a mouse. Lu Ming sneered. This caused Hai Pingtian and the other overlords of the 4 divine palaces to have ugly expressions. They were really afraid of the ultimate killing formation that Lu Ming had set up. Lu Ming's strength was so strong that he could kill a 3rd-level martial emperor. This was very strange in the first place. What they were afraid of was that Lu Ming might have obtained some treasure from the core of the divine ruins and set it up in the large array. Whoever made the first move would most likely be in danger. However, they could not attack together and kill Lu Ming. The primordial chaos token had already fused with Lu Ming. Even if they killed Lu Ming, they would not be able to obtain the primordial chaos token. The only way was to take down Lu Ming or cripple his cultivation. This way, they would have some scruples when they made a move. Still not attacking. What overlord? They're all trash. Lu Ming was extremely arrogant. He was not worried at all. This made everyone even more certain that Lu Ming had cast a big array at this moment. We'll know if there's a formation after we send someone to try. An overlord-level character spoke. In the Divine Ruins continent, only a 4th-level martial emperor could be called an overlord. That's right, send someone to try. Another hegemon-level figure spoke out. But who should they send? Everyone's eyes flickered, and no one was willing to step forward and try. If Lu Ming had really set up a fatal formation there, the people who went up to test him would most likely be in danger. This made the 4 great divine palaces unwilling to send people up first. Since these people from the small continent have followed us here, they should at least contribute a little. Someone said slowly. The powerhouses from the other continents were shocked. Buzz. Whoosh. In a flash, the overlords of the 4 divine palaces appeared beside the cultivators from the other continents. Their cold eyes sent chills down the spines of the cultivators from the other continents. What are you guys doing? Someone from the other continents shouted. What are you doing? If you want to fish in troubled waters here, you have to put in some effort. Go up and take down that kid. A hegemon-level character coldly spoke. You guys are too overbearing. Some people were unwilling. Nonsense. Go up. If you don't, I'll destroy you all now, including your continent. The hegemon-level character berated, incomparably tyrannical. In the end, other than the second-ranked Blood Sun continent, all the experts from the other continents had no choice but to step forward. There were dozens of them. They were both at the 2nd or 3rd level martial royal realm. These people were forced to slowly approach Lu Ming. Lu Ming, surrender. A level 3 martial emperor realm expert berated. Nonsense. If you want to do it quickly. Don't waste time. Lu Ming retorted. We'll attack together. Alright, let's attack together. In the end, dozens of 2nd and 3rd level martial emperors charged at Lu Ming together. Kill. Die. Lu Ming suddenly shouted. A dragon's roar resounded in his body, and his 3rd bloodline appeared. The dragon vein sword appeared in his hand. He took a step forward and slashed. Bang! Bang! The sword light destroyed the attacks and killed the 3 peak lever 2 martial royal realm experts. Lu Ming swept his leg out and a 3rd level martial royal realm expert was sent flying by Lu Ming. Kill! Lu Ming wielded his combat sword and killed as if he had entered a no man's land. The 2nd level martial royal realm experts were unable to block the dragon vein sword's attack. They were all killed in one strike. Only those at the 3rd level could block a few attacks. Roar! All of a sudden, the 9-dragon bloodline emerged and Lu Ming transformed into the 9 dragons. The chaos domain covered him and the dragon claws of the 9 dragons kept slashing out, tearing a 3rd level martial royal realm expert apart. The others gasped and retreated in fear. Dozens of people attacked. In a few breaths, Lu Ming had killed more than 10 people. They were of no threat to Lu Ming at all. This kid's combat strength has increased again. Hai Pengtian thought to himself. Among the overlords here, he was the only one who had fought with Lu Ming before. Chapter 1384. 1384 Chapter 1384 Great Battle against Hai Pengtian. He realized that Lu Ming's combat strength had improved compared to before. In fact, that was indeed the case. Now, Lu Ming's pure spirit body had been cultivated to perfection. Furthermore, the embryonic form of the chaos domain was getting bigger and bigger. The combat strength of his main body had indeed improved greatly compared to before. Right now, the combat strength of Lu Ming's main body could be said to have reached a peak that was difficult to improve. The overlords of the 4 great divine palaces had ugly expressions on their faces. They could not probe Lu Ming's actual situation by sending these people to the battlefield. If they wanted to find out the truth, they had to send out a 4th level martial royal realm expert. However, who among the overlords at the level 4 martial royal realm was willing to take the risk? I'll make my move. After a while, Hai Pengtian spoke. He had a deep hatred for Lu Ming, and he could not wait to tear Lu Ming into pieces. Bang! Bang! Hai Pengtian stepped forward. The powerful aura of the 4th level martial emperor realm was fully released. At the same time, a pair of golden wings appeared on his back, and the sharp energy cut opened the space. Hai Pengtian, that's good. Today, I'll send you to accompany your 2 sons and your 2nd brother. Lu Ming's voice was heard from the 9 dragons. "Little bastard, I'll first cripple your cultivation and make you wish you were dead," said Hai Pingtian. The wings on his back flapped and his figure disappeared as he pounced towards Lu Ming. Chi-chi. A pair of golden wings, like 2 extremely sharp blades, slashed at the 9 dragons. Buzz. Lu Ming used his spiritual consciousness to control the dragon vein sword and blocked one of the sharp edges. At the same time, he used 9 dragon steps to blast another sharp edge. Clang. Boom. With a few rumbles, the 9 dragons' bodies trembled violently. They stepped on the void and retreated. Kill. Hai Pingtian shouted coldly and continued to charge at Lu Ming. Beams of sharp light poured toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming tried his best to resist, but he was still at a disadvantage. He was completely outmatched. The 9 dragons' bodies were covered with cracks. The 4th level of the Martial Emperor realm was much stronger than the 3rd level. Lu Ming was no match for him. Buzz. Suddenly, a figure rushed out of the 9 dragons. Second body inscription. Ming Lian waved his hand, and 5 phoenix feather flying swords pierced through the void, heading towards Hai Pingtian. At the same time, the Myriad formation diagram flew out, and endless great formations enveloped Hai Pingtian. Clang! Clang! Hai Pingtian's golden wings flapped, knocking away the 5 phoenix feather flying swords and destroying a large area of the formation. The 9 dragons roared in anger, and together with Ming Lian's second body, they charged towards Hai Pingtian. The 2 of them began a great battle. Although Lu Ming was still at a disadvantage, the main body and secondary body cooperated seamlessly and he could barely resist the attacks. This Lu Ming is really a genius. Even though they were enemies, a hegemon-level character couldn't help but sigh. That's right. I don't know what kind of secret technique this kid is cultivating. His clone is a pure inscriber and has reached the Emperor realm. Unbelievable. Could it be a powerful puppet technique? The various hegemons spoke. With their knowledge, it was naturally impossible for them to know about the secret skill of Twin, so they all made guesses. Since we've already offended him, we can't let him live. At the very least, we have to cripple his cultivation at any cost. Wang Xing opened his mouth. His heart was somewhat cold. Lu Ming's talent was too terrifying. If they let him escape, he would be their nightmare when he grew up. The other overlords all nodded. In the blink of an eye, Lu Ming and Hai Pingtian had exchanged dozens of moves. How Pingtian, is this all you've got? How can you avenge your son? Lu Ming mocked and ridiculed as he fought. Damn it! Hai Pingtian roared in his heart. He was shocked. He had already tried his best but he still could not take down Lu Ming. Although his cultivation was only at the early stage of the Level 4 Martial Royal Realm and his combat strength was considered weak among the Level 4 Martial Royal Realm experts, it was not difficult for him to kill a Level 3 Martial Royal Realm expert. However, he could not take down a young junior even after a long time. He started to feel a little anxious. Now is the time. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. The 9 dragons' bloodline suddenly collapsed, revealing Lu Ming's true form. Primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. Lu Ming's hands formed seals rapidly. Boom! In the sky, a huge seal formed. It looked like the Imperial Jade Seal used by emperors in the mortal world, but it was as large as a mountain. On it, chaotic light permeated. This was the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. The Primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal descended from the sky and pressed down on Hai Pingtian. Its terrifying power caused Hai Pingtian's expression to change. Block it! Hai Pingtian shouted. The pair of golden wings on his back flapped rapidly, forming an infinite sharp chi that blasted toward the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal. Boom! Finally, the Primal Chaos Sky-Turning Seal and Hai Pingtian's attack collided. At this moment, Hai Pingtian's expression changed. The attacks he had sent out were constantly exploding and disappearing. The Chaos Empyrean seal was like a divine mountain from the primordial era, suppressing everything. Boom! In the end, Haipengtian's attack was defeated, and the primal chaos sky-turning seal landed on Haipengtian's body. Haipengtian's body trembled violently as he screamed. His body fell to the ground as blood spurted out of his mouth. Haipengtian was no match for the primal chaos sky-turning seal and suffered heavy injuries. Kill! At this moment, Ming Lian seized the opportunity and charged towards Haipengtian. The million formation illustration covered Haipengtian, and at the same time, 5 phoenix-feathered flying swords pierced through Haipengtian's 5 vital points. Haipengtian tried his best to resist, but he had just been struck by the chaos sky-turning seal. His breath had not calmed down, and his whole body was in pain as if it was being torn apart. He could not exert much combat power at all. He tried his best to resist, but his body was still pierced by the 2 phoenix feather flying swords, almost cutting his body apart. Break! In the end, a piercing golden light bloomed. One of Haipengtian's wings exploded, forming a terrifying storm that tore through the seal of the Ming Lian clone. He rushed out and flew into the group of people from the South God Palace. He continuously spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, his face as pale as paper. The crowd gasped. A 4th-level martial royal realm overlord had almost been killed by Lu Ming. It was too shocking. What a pity. Lu Ming sighed to himself. His combat strength was still insufficient after all. He had suddenly used the chaos sky-turning seal just now, but he had not been able to kill Haipengtian. If CROC World had been a little more careful, it would have been even harder to kill. His strength was still a little lacking compared to a level 4 martial royal realm expert. The consumption of true essence is truly terrifying. Lu Ming sighed. A huge pile of raw gemstones appeared. Lu Ming activated his 9-dragon bloodline to devour the raw gemstones and refine them. The primal chaos sky-turning seal had consumed nearly 50% of Lu Ming's quintessential essence. In other words, given Lu Ming's essential core, he could only use the chaos sky-turning seal twice before his essential core was exhausted. What do we do now? A hegemon-level figure spoke. Even Haipengtian could not find out if Lu Ming had set up a killing formation here. What would happen next? We'll be able to probe it out if we send a few more people. Someone suggested. Chapter 1385. 1385 Chapter 1385 Bathing in the Emperor's Blood. That's right. I suggest that each of the 4 divine palaces send a level 4 martial royal realm expert. The 4 of us will join forces to test this kid's strength. If he didn't set up a killing formation here, we can take him down in one fell swoop. A white-haired old man from the North God Palace said. This person was the palace master of the North God Palace. His cultivation had reached the peak of the level 4 martial royal realm and he was extremely powerful. Alright, let's do that. The others all nodded in agreement. Next, it was time to select the candidates. Soon, the 4 divine palaces each selected a level 4 martial royal realm expert. In the North Divine Palace, Wang Xing had just surrendered, so his status was the lowest. Without a doubt, the North Divine Palace wanted him to take action, which made his expression somewhat unsightly. Boom! 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 From 4 directions, the 4 overlords were like 4 gods, pressing down on Lu Ming. Lu Ming, no matter what tricks you have up your sleeve, the outcome is already decided today. Wang Xing sneered. Step by step, his aura became stronger and stronger. His entire body was covered in a milky white holy light. He was the strongest among the 4. He used to be one of the patriarchs of the top 10 families in the South God Palace. He was ranked in the top 3 among the patriarchs of the top 10 families in the South God Palace. His cultivation had almost reached the peak of the level 4 martial royal realm. Lu Ming's main body and clone stood together. He covered his entire body with the embryonic form of the chaos domain to resist the external pressure. Boom! Under the pressure of the 4 experts, the lake water below churned. The lake water within 100,000 miles was instantly evaporated, revealing the dried-up bottom of the lake. Attack! Suddenly, Wang Xing shouted explosively and took the lead to attack. The other 3 experts also charged toward Lu Ming. Bubble! At this moment, Lu Ming shouted softly. Then, the bubble appeared on Lu Ming's shoulder. It chirped and waved its small claws. On the bodies of Wang Sheng and the other 3, a transparent bubble suddenly appeared, enveloping the 4 people inside. The 4 of them were frozen in the air, unable to move. The 4 of them were sealed in the bubble, their eyes revealing an expression of shock and despair. Kill! Lu Ming took the lead and charged at one of them with the dragon vein sword in his hand. The combat sword slashed and the man was cut in half. His spiritual god was also crushed into pieces by the sword chi. An overlord at the Lever 4 martial royal realm was killed just like that. Why would I? All around, everyone was stunned, not understanding what had happened. As for Lu Ming, he charged at the second person. Puchi! Blood splattered everywhere. The second overlord figure was killed by Lu Ming. Following that, Lu Ming charged towards the third person, Wang Sheng. What's going on? Break, break! Wang Sheng roared crazily, using all his strength, wanting to blast open the transparent bubble. Just as Lu Ming was about to approach him, he finally burst the transparent bubble. However, what made him despair was that just as he broke this transparent bubble, another transparent bubble appeared out of thin air and enveloped him. This transparent bubble had appeared without any warning. There were no fluctuations and it was impossible to dodge. No, don't. Wang Xing's heart was madly roaring, frantically struggling. However, Lu Ming had already arrived. Whoosh! The battle sword slashed down, splitting Wang Sheng into 2, destroying his body and soul. After killing Wang Sheng, Lu Ming didn't even look and charged towards the 4th person. What's going on? That's the space-time domain. It's the space-time domain. It's that pet. It's that pet. This person is a monster. A monster. Let's attack together and kill him. We'd rather not get the mixed energy token. Lu Ming had killed 3 overlord figures in a row. The experts of the 4 divine palaces were completely terrified and went completely crazy. Lu Ming was too dangerous. If they did not kill him today, they would be the ones to die. Attack, all of you attack. Kill. Hundreds of experts from the divine palaces all attacked at the same time. Hundreds of attacks gathered together and headed toward Lu Ming. This kind of attack was too terrifying. Heaven and earth trembled. Lu Ming's pupils constricted rapidly. There was no doubt that if Lu Ming was hit, he would definitely turn into ashes. There was no possibility of him surviving. Chirping. The bubble's body glowed and its small claw clawed at the void. A space-time tunnel appeared and Lu Ming rushed into it without any hesitation. Boom! The attack landed on the ground the moment Lu Ming rushed into the space-time tunnel. Below him, the lake that was hundreds of thousands of miles in radius was instantly annihilated. Boom! 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 The ground within a radius of several 100,000 li was shaking violently, and countless huge cracks covered the entire land like a spider web. At the center of the attack, a huge hole with a radius of tens of thousands of miles appeared. Its depth was unfathomable. Boom! In the next moment, fiery red lava rushed out of the giant hole and rushed thousands of miles into the sky. Without a doubt, the ground had been pierced through. It was like the end of the world for hundreds of thousands of miles. Countless creatures had died. Tens of thousands of miles away, the space fluctuated and Lu Ming appeared. Lu Ming did not die. He's there. Kill him. Buzz. 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 The experts charged at Lu Ming the moment they saw him. Beams of dazzling rainbow light streaked across the sky and headed for Lu Ming. If you want to kill, then kill to your heart's content today. The energy of the air-frozen bead gushed into Lu Ming's body. He cast the wind elemental art and his body moved rapidly, avoiding the attacks and killing his way into the crowd. Chirping. The bubble cried out. A Level 4 Martial Royal Realm expert was the first to bear the brunt. He was enveloped by the transparent bubble and could not move at all. Lu Ming charged forward and killed the man. Then, Lu Ming charged forward and killed a few martial emperors. Lu Ming's entire body was bathed in emperor's blood. He was like an invincible god of death. Help each other. Whoever is trapped by those bubbles, help each other. Someone shouted. Then, some people were trapped by bubbles. The other strong people quickly came to their aid, leaving Lu Ming with no way to attack. This move of his is useless, kill. Lu Ming must die today. The crowd roared and charged at Lu Ming from all directions. It's my turn to make a move. He appeared and flew out. Suddenly, a huge turtle shell appeared in the air. Many attacks landed on the huge turtle shell, but they were all blocked by it. Buzz. Buzz. Bubbles opened her mouth and spat out a few sharp glints. These glints were like wind blades, but they were many times stronger than wind blades. They were the condensation of space and time. A Level 4 Martial Royal Realm expert was killed by the sword radiance. I'll do it. Dandan shouted as her body rapidly grew in size. She slapped a Level 4 Martial Royal Realm expert to death. After Dandan and Bubbles broke through to the Martial Emperor realm, they displayed terrifying combat strength and could even kill a Level 4 Martial Emperor. This made the experts from all four sides feel a chill in their hearts. However, there were too many experts in the surroundings. Although Dandan and Bubbles had each killed one person, they were also blasted away by the many attacks. Chapter 1386. 1386 Chapter 1386 Fatal Blow. Nest, there are too many people. Dandan killed another 2/3 level Martial Royal Realm experts and flew back to Lu Ming's shoulder. Chirping. Pow Pow appeared on Lu Ming's other shoulder silently. Let's go. Lu Ming cast the wind elemental technique, turned around, and left. Kill. Don't let him get away. The experts at the scene were already in a killing frenzy and charged toward Lu Ming. Hundreds of colorful red lights pierced through the void and headed toward Lu Ming. At the critical moment, Bubbles opened a void channel. Lu Ming rushed into the void channel and appeared thousands of miles away, avoiding the attack. Don't stop, continue to pursue him. No matter how heaven-defying his pet is, it can't use that kind of technique continuously. It'll exhaust its energy. He can't escape. One after another, the overlord figures called out to the crowd to attack Lu Ming. They had to kill Lu Ming today. Otherwise, if Lu Ming escaped, they would not be able to gather together every day. They had to split up. Once they split up, it would be more dangerous to face Lu Ming's attacks. Therefore, he had to cut the weeds and eliminate the roots today. They chased after Lu Ming tightly. Lu Ming flew forward at high speed. After flying for 1,000,000 miles, Lu Ming suddenly stopped. He turned around and looked at the experts who were chasing after him. The corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Seeing that the experts were slowly approaching, Ming Lian appeared. The mental energy fire between his eyebrows jumped and he shouted, "Rise!" Buzz! Whoosh! In the void, countless inscriptions appeared, and a huge array appeared in the sky. This formation covered a radius of 30,000 miles, and everyone was trapped inside. This was Lu Ming's killing move. Lu Ming's ultimate killing formation was not inscribed at the lake, but here. The lake was just a bait, and so was he. He knew that the cultivators of the 4 divine palaces wouldn't be fooled easily. Everything he had done before was for this moment, to lure these people here. Not good, I've been tricked. There's a killing formation here. Hurry up and charge out. Someone shouted. It's too late. God-killing sword formation, kill. Ming Lian's second body roared. Countless sword lights appeared in the killing formation. Each sword light emitted a terrifying aura. This was a clone inscription formation that had taken several months to set up, and its power was terrifying. Whoosh! 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 The sword chi swept down. The sovereigns at the first, second, and third levels of the martial royal realm were unable to block it at all. As the sword radiance slashed across, their bodies and spirits were destroyed. Only those at the 4th level martial royal realm could barely withstand it. In just a few minutes, there were only dozens of level 4 martial royal realm experts left in the void. These people were virtually the Divine Ruins Continent Group's peak powerhouses already. But these powerhouses were also struggling to hold on. Ah! With a shrill scream, Lu Ming saw Hai Pengtian's heart being pierced by 10,000 swords and he died on the spot. He was already injured, and now he was the first to die. After the fall of Hai Pengtian, some of the weaker overlord figures were also killed one by one. The number of people was decreasing. Lu Ming, let us go. I'm willing to join you. I'm also willing to do so. Please spare my life. Some people started to shout and beg for mercy. You guys should just die. I'd rather believe in the dead. Kill them. Lu Ming said coldly. The formation was activated, and countless sword lights were unleashed. People were killed one after another. These were the overlords of the Divine Ruins Continent Group, but at that moment, their lives were like grass, and they had fallen on this land. A few minutes later, there were only 5 or 6 people left in the air, barely holding on. These 5 or 6 people were the top experts of the Divine Ruins Continent Group. Each of them was only 1 step away from the 5th level of the martial royal realm. They tried their best to break through, but the formation covered a radius of 30,000 miles. The sword chi was endless, and they couldn't break out at all. Lu Ming, you'll die a horrible death. The last few people begged for mercy, but it didn't work, so they started to curse. However, in the end, they were all killed by the formation. There were more than 500 martial royal realm experts who came to kill Lu Ming this time, but they were all massacred by Lu Ming. Not a single one was left. Such a thing had never happened before in the Divine Ruins Continent Group. After killing the last person, Lu Ming's mind was completely at ease. He heaved a long sigh of relief and prepared to put away the storage ring. At this moment, Lu Ming suddenly felt a sense of danger. This sense of danger made Lu Ming's hair stand on end and he felt a chill in his heart. Whoosh! At this moment, a terrifying attack was launched at Lu Ming from behind. It was too fast. It was so fast that Lu Ming could not react. Almost subconsciously, it was a kind of instinct. With a thought, Ming Lian moved his secondary body and stood behind Lu Ming. It was a sword light that pierced through the Ming Lian clone's chest. The terrifying sword chi suddenly exploded, and half of the Ming Lian clone's body exploded. Even half of his head exploded. Bang! Ming Lian's body flew far away, his aura extremely weak. The second body was in mortal danger. The main body trembled and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, this delay had also bought Lu Ming some time. The energy of the air-frozen bead gushed in. Lu Ming cast the wind element art and his figure was like a phantom, retreating backward rapidly. As soon as Lu Ming retreated, the sharp blade that attacked him advanced and charged toward Lu Ming at top speed. It was a sword light with a world-shaking sharpness that could kill everything. Lu Ming had never seen such a sharp sword. At this moment, Dandan and Bubbles also reacted. A piece of tortoiseshell blocked Lu Ming's path. A creak. The turtle shell blocked some of the sword light, but it was still pierced through. At this moment, the bubble opened a void channel. Lu Ming's figure disappeared into the void channel and he appeared tens of thousands of miles away. He had finally avoided the fatal blow. Buzz! A sword light flashed, and a middle-aged man appeared in the void. It's you. Lu Ming's pupils constricted when he saw this person. This middle-aged burly man was the middle-aged burly man from the deity sect. Back then, he had chased after Lu Ming together with the master of the Mu family and young Master Lin. Later on, in the core of the divine ruins, he was injured by the headless true dragon rider and had to retreat in embarrassment. Initially, Lu Ming thought that the other party had already returned to the Yuan continent. He did not expect that not only did the other party not return to the Yuan continent, but he had also been hiding at the side. When Lu Ming was at his most relaxed, he launched a fatal blow. If he had not blocked the attack, Lu Ming would have been dead. However, the other party's condition was not right. His entire body was filled with a black mist, which was like a poisonous snake. It wrapped around the burly man of the heavenly god sect, making him look extremely ferocious. His breath was also unstable. It's equivalent to a level 6 martial royal realm expert. Lu Ming estimated in his heart. The other party's cultivation should have been above the 7th level of the martial royal realm, but because of the snake-like mist, his cultivation had dropped to the 6th level of the martial royal realm. However, the 6th level of the martial royal realm still far surpassed Lu Ming. Chapter 1387. 1387 Chapter 1387 Mastermind. Lu Ming, you're really lucky to be able to escape like this. But this place is extremely far from the divine ruins. Let's see how you're going to escape. The burly man from the heavenly god sect glared at Lu Ming, his eyes filled with malevolence and cold killing intent. You didn't return to the Yuan continent? Lu Ming frowned, his mind highly focused. The other party was right. This place was too far away from the divine ruins. Even if he borrowed the bubbles to open a space-time tunnel, he would most likely not be able to escape the other party's pursuit. Before he could even run into the divine ruins, he was already chased and killed by the other party. Lu Ming was in danger. It's all because of you. The burly man from the heavenly god sect seemed to have been stabbed in the heart by Lu Ming's question. He roared in anger and said ferociously, "It's all because of you that I've been cursed and my cultivation has dropped. If I take the teleportation array in this state, the void will shake and the curse will penetrate deep into my bones. It'll be difficult to get rid of it. How can I be satisfied if I don't kill you?" The burly man from the heavenly god sect became angrier and angrier as he spoke, and his killing intent grew colder. Lu Ming understood that the other party should have been injured by the headless true dragon knight in the core of the divine ruins and suffered from the power of the curse. A headless true dragon rider was not a living being, but was formed from the undying battle intent of a supreme expert. Every move contained the power of the curse, which would constantly corrode one's body and soul. The burly man of the Tiantian sect had been affected by the power of the curse, which was why he had not returned to Yuan continent. It seems like you were the one who spread the news of me having a mixed essence token in the Divine Ruins continent group. Lu Ming's eyes flickered and he suddenly spoke. He had always felt that this matter was strange. If the people from the South God Palace had searched Long Chen's soul and found out that he had the mixed energy token, they would definitely have sent experts to capture him. Why would it be so popular? Now that he saw the burly man from the Divine God sect, Lu Ming's heart suddenly moved as he thought of a possibility. It was very likely that the burly man from the Heavenly God sect had fanned the flames and spread the news, hoping to kill Lu Ming with the help of others. "Ha, that's right, it's me." The burly man from the Heaven God sect laughed. He took a step forward and covered 100 miles, approaching Lu Ming at an extreme speed. Lu Ming retreated quickly, thinking of countermeasures in his mind. The destruction of Dragon God Valley is also fake. Lu Ming continued. If the Tianxin sect wanted to borrow the hands of others to get rid of Lu Ming, the first thing they had to do was to make Lu Ming's identity no longer a deterrent. Ji Hongqian said that the Tianxin sect had sent the news that Dragon God Valley had been destroyed. It was very likely that this burly man from the Tianxin sect had also told them. He had spread false news with the purpose of getting rid of Lu Ming with the help of others. Not bad. The burly man from the Heavenly God sect said coldly. What a good scheme. Lu Ming sighed. From the beginning to the end, it was all because of the scheme of the burly man from the Divine God sect that Lu Ming had come to this point and was being hunted down by the entire continent of the Divine Ruins. Unfortunately, the burly man from the Heavenly God sect had underestimated Lu Ming. In the end, he had no choice but to take action personally. Whoosh! The burly man from the Divine Heaven sect was getting faster and faster. He surpassed Lu Ming and approached him at an extreme speed. Lu Ming had no choice but to let Bubbles open a space-time tunnel and head north. Tens of thousands of miles away, Lu Ming appeared. Whoosh! However, the burly man from the Heavenly God sect was extremely fast. With a flash of light, he quickly chased after Lu Ming. The distance between the two of them was getting closer and closer. What do we do? Lu Ming's mind was racing. The other party was too powerful. There was too much of a difference between Lu Ming and the other party. Any means would be useless in the face of Lu Ming's absolute power. Moreover, now that his second body was seriously injured and on the verge of death, his strength had also dropped greatly. Lu Ming, run. Let's see how you're going to escape. And let me tell you, after I kill you, I'll still go to the Divine Wilderness Continent and destroy it. I'll kill everyone in the Divine Wilderness Continent. The burly man from the Heavenly God sect spoke coldly, causing Lu Ming's killing intent to surge. Human lives were like ants in the other party's eyes. Today, even if Lu Ming was lucky enough to escape, the other party would still attack the Divine Wilderness Continent. No one in the Divine Wilderness Continent would be spared. This was a lunatic. Dandan, is there any way? Lu Ming sent a voice transmission to Dandan. Lu Ming, I knew it. You would have designs on me again. I'm really sinful. I'm always implicated by you. Dandan sighed. Is there any way? Lu Ming asked again. This person is cursed and his cultivation is only at level 6 Martial Emperor realm. If Xiao Budian cooperates with me with all his strength, we might have a chance to severely injure him. However, we will suffer heavy losses. Lu Ming, I'm telling you, you have to compensate us in the future. Dandan mumbled to herself and then to Bubbles. Chirping. At that moment, Bubbles suddenly flew out. A layer of blood-red light suffused Bubbles' milky white fur and burned like flames, greatly increasing Bubbles' aura. Space-time spirit mouse, I'll take you down first. Greed flashed in the eyes of the burly man from the Heaven God sect. He waved the long sword in his hand and dozens of sword lights burst out. Like a cage, they enveloped the bubble. Bubbles' two small claws grabbed at the air. Kacha! Kacha! The space trembled violently and split apart like pieces of crystal. In the end, it formed a spatial sword and slashed toward the man from the Divine God sect. The expression of the man from the Heaven God sect changed. He did not dare to be careless. He changed the momentum of his sword and slashed horizontally. Buzz! Buzz! Whoosh! A total of 9 space swords were cut open by the burly man from the Heavenly God sect. At this moment, Dandan also made her move. Like Bubbles, Dandan's body was suffused with a blood-red light, raising her aura by a notch. Lu Ming knew that Dandan and Bubbles were going all out. They had burned the power of their blood essence in their bodies to increase their strength in a short period of time. However, the repercussions were not small. Dandan's body became bigger than a mountain. Her 2 front claws slapped toward the burly man from the Heavenly God sect. In the process of slapping, Danden's claws were covered with inscriptions, forming a terrifying killing array that suppressed the burly man from the heavenly god sect. Buzz! Two extremely sharp sword lights flew out from the hands of the burly man from the heavenly god sect and slashed at Danden's claws. The array on Danden's claw trembled and then collapsed. Danden's body flew out. However, at the same time, a transparent bubble suddenly appeared around the burly man from the heavenly god sect and enveloped him. This is a good opportunity. Danden let out a loud cry and opened her mouth. A ball of chaotic mist was blasted towards the burly man from the heavenly god sect. Within the chaotic mist, it was like a world. Mountains and rivers could be vaguely seen. Whoosh! Whoosh! Just as Danden's attack was about to land, 10,000 sword lights burst out from the transparent bubble and destroyed it in one fell swoop. The sword lights slashed at the world projection that Danden had spat out. The illusionary world that Danden spat out shook crazily and finally dissipated. Nest, kill! Danden roared loudly. Her whole body was shining with a dazzling blood-red light. Between heaven and earth, 9 huge turtle shells appeared and pressed down on the burly man from the Tianqian sect. Chapter 1388. 1388 Chapter 1388 Going All Out. Danden burned the power of her blood essence and her strength increased greatly. She continued to display terrifying techniques. Bubbles was in a similar state. The blood-red light around its body was blinding as it chirped. The space where it stood was like water ripples that constantly trembled. It was as if it was the master of this world, and it was using terrifying killing techniques. However, the burly man from the heavenly god sect was terrifyingly strong. He was engaged in a great battle with Danden and Bubbles. What powerful combat strength! Something is wrong with this combat strength. Lu Ming's expression was extremely grave. The combat strength of the burly man from the deity sect was beyond his imagination. The cultivation of the burly man from the heavenly god sect was equivalent to the 6th level of the martial royal realm. However, his combat strength was completely out of Lu Ming's expectations. It was not the 6th level of the martial royal realm that Lu Ming had imagined. Instead, it was much higher. Lu Ming had killed more than 1/4 level martial emperor in the Divine Ruins continent group, so he was very clear about the combat strength of these 4th level martial emperors. Although the level 4 martial royal realm experts on the continent of the Divine Ruins had strong combat strength, there was still a gap. According to the combat strength of these level 4 martial royal realm experts, he could roughly estimate that they had the combat strength of a level 6 martial royal realm expert. However, the combat strength of the burly man from the heavenly god sect was much stronger than what Lu Ming had predicted. Could it be that the combat power of the Yuan continent's martial emperor is much stronger than that of the Divine Ruins continent? Or is the burly man from the Tianqian sect a combat genius? Or perhaps, it's because his original realm was higher. Lu Ming guessed in his heart. Then, Lu Ming moved and appeared next to the second body. Lu Ming frowned after sensing it carefully. The secondary body was severely injured. Half of its body had exploded, leaving only the other half. Fortunately, the soul that Lu Ming had split in the secondary body was not severely injured. Otherwise, it would have been equivalent to the secondary body dying. However, the situation was not good. The clone would need a long time to recuperate before it could recover. During this period of time, the clone could not help Lu Ming. With a wave of his hand, he put the clone into the mountain and river diagram. Then, he condensed his vital essence into a ribbon and collected all the storage rings of the emperors. Boom! 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 The battle between Danden, Bubbles, and the burly man from the heavenly god sect had already turned white hot. Curse, this lord will fight it out with you. Danden shouted in the air, jumping left and right, and attacked in an endless stream. She had the Tao of inscription, the Tao of martial arts, and everything else. As for the space-time spiritual mouse, it was much simpler. It used the space-time domain to fight against the enemy, but its power was extremely terrifying. The burly man from the Heavenly Gods sect was extremely afraid of the bubble's space-time domain because he would be fixed in place by the space-time domain if he was not careful. It had to be said that Dandin and Bubbles were indeed powerful. They had just broken through to the Emperor realm not long ago, but when the two of them combined their strength and used all their skills, they were able to fight with the burly man from the Heavenly Gods sect. One really did not know how terrifying they would be at their peak. Very quickly, the two sides had exchanged over 100 moves. Ha ha ha, it's finally done. At this moment, Dandin suddenly burst out laughing. His figure suddenly retreated, and dense inscriptions suddenly appeared around the burly man from the Heavenly Gods sect. This was a large array. Previously, Dandin was shouting and jumping around. It turned out that she was secretly setting up an array. Now, the formation was finally complete. Buzz! The formation glowed. Between heaven and earth, 9 huge turtle shells appeared. The turtle shells glowed and suppressed the heaven and earth of the burly man from the Tianxin sect. Break! The burly man from the Heaven Gods sect shouted and slashed out with his sword, hitting a piece of turtle shell. However, the turtle shell only shook and was not broken. Little guy, do it. Go all out. Dandin shouted and opened her mouth to spit out a ball of chaotic light. Within the chaos, a world was evolevering. This time, the illusionary image of the world that Dandin spat out was extremely real. The inscriptions inside interweaved and actually formed all kinds of living creatures, which suppressed the burly man from the Tianxin sect. Chirping. The bubble cried out and waved its claws. A transparent bubble suddenly appeared around the burly man from the Heavenly Gods sect and enveloped him. This bubble was clearly different from the transparent bubbles that had appeared before. This transparent bubble had the shadow of a space-time spirit mouse circling it, howling at the sky. Break! 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 The burly man of the Heaven Gods sect seemed to have sensed the danger. He roared madly and his sword chi burst out, trying to break the turtle shell shield. Kacha! Kacha! A crack appeared on one of the tortoise shells, and it exploded. Explode! 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 Dandin roared. Boom! Boom! The illusory world that Dandin had spat out suddenly exploded. At the same time, Bubble's transparent bubble also exploded. The terrifying energy annihilated the entire territory, turning it into a pitch-black Massachusetts. A terrifying destructive storm erupted in all directions, turning that place into a black hole. Dandin and Bubble's bodies were sent flying far away by the destructive storm. Lu Ming hurriedly rushed out and caught Dandin and Bubbles. At this moment, Dandin and Bubbles' auras were extremely weak and their bodies were dim. Chirping. Bubbles cried out weakly, her body curled up and she actually fell unconscious. Bubble. Lu Ming's heart ached. Lu Ming, Xiao Budian and I have burned our blood essence source and suffered great losses. I'm afraid we'll have to sleep for a while. You have to prepare spiritual herbs when we wake up, a lot of spiritual herbs. Dandin said and fell unconscious. Don't worry. Lu Ming muttered and kept Dandin and Bubbles into the mountain and river diagram. Boom. In front of him, the explosion was still going on, and it took a long time before it calmed down. A figure appeared in the sky. The burly man from the Heavenly Gods sect was actually still alive. However, at this moment, he was extremely miserable. His entire body was in tatters, and wounds of various sizes covered his entire body as blood flowed out. His aura was extremely weak, and there was a layer of true yuan covering his body, allowing him to stand in the air. Ah, damn it, damn it! The burly man from the Heavenly Gods sect roared in anger. This was too tragic, he was too miserable. He had already been struck by the headless true dragon rider's curse power, causing his cultivation base to regress and it was difficult for him to recover. Just now, he was also severely injured by Dandan and Bubble, adding on to his injuries. Even if he recovered in the future, his cultivation base would regress and it would be difficult for him to improve again. His anger seemed to be able to burn half the sky. Kill. Before he could react, a cold killing intent enveloped him. Lu Ming charged over. The embryonic form of the chaos domain wrapped around the dragon-patterned sword and slashed at him. Clang! The burly man from the heaven god sect raised the long sword in his hand and blocked in front of him. The dragon vein sword struck his long sword, causing his body to shake violently. His body flew out like a cannonball, and blood spurted out of his mouth. Now, he was no match for Lu Ming at all. Kill! Lu Ming shouted and charged at the other party. Lu Ming, I'll spare your life today. The burly man from the heavenly god sect roared and turned to run. Where are you going? Lu Ming cast the wind element technique and chased after the burly man from the heavenly god sect. The burly man from the divine sky sect transformed into a beam of sword light. His speed was so fast that he seemed to be traveling through space. Lu Ming used the power of the air-frozen bead to help him and cast the wind element technique. However, he could not catch up with him. Chapter 1389. 1389 Chapter 1389 Whereabouts of the prison suppressing steel. The two of them, one chasing and one escaping, disappeared from this place. However, it was impossible for the burly man from the heavenly god sect to shake off Lu Ming. Moreover, as time passed, the distance between Lu Ming and the burly man from the heavenly god sect was getting closer. After all, the burly man from the heaven god sect had suffered heavy injuries. At this time, he was running for his life. As his injuries worsened, his speed naturally became slower and slower. This won't do. If this continues, this brat will catch up to me sooner or later. Now that I'm seriously injured, I don't even have 1% of my strength left. I'm not his match at all. The burly man from the heavenly god sect was thinking of a way to escape. Behind him, Lu Ming's eyes were cold. His body was shrouded in a green light as he chased after the burly man from the heavenly god sect at an extreme speed. He must kill the burly man of the heavenly god sect. The reason why he was chased by all the experts on the continent of the divine ruins was all because of the burly man from the divine god sect. First, there was news that Lu Ming had a mixed essence token and could enter the core of the divine ruins safely. Then, there was fake news that Dragon God Valley had been exterminated, so the experts of the continent group of the divine ruins did not have any scruples about Lu Ming and went all out to hunt him down. Later on, when Lu Ming set up a trap and killed a large number of experts from the continent of the divine ruins, the burly man from the deity sect launched a sneak attack and seriously injured his second body. Now, even Dandan and Bubbles were unconscious. Lu Ming had suffered a great loss. Furthermore, with the actions of the burly man from the Tianqian sect, if he was not killed, he would definitely seek revenge on Lu Ming in a frenzy. The divine wilderness continent, his family and friends would all be in danger. Therefore, Lu Ming had to kill the burly man from the divine god sect at all costs to get rid of future troubles. The distance between the two of them was slowly closing. No, this can't go on. I can only give it my all. The burly man from the heaven god sect had a ruthless look in his eyes. He suddenly changed his direction and flew toward the east. That is the direction of the ancient city of the divine ruins. Lu Ming's gaze flickered. Originally, the location he had chosen before was in the central part of the divine ruins continent, not far from the ancient city of the divine ruins. This way, he could wait for the powerhouses of the four great divine palaces to appear at the same time. This person, could it be that he wants to use the ancient city of the god ruins teleportation array to escape back to the Yuan continent's Tianqian sect? Lu Ming made a guess. In fact, this was the case. The burly man from the Tianqian sect could no longer care about his injuries. He wanted to use the teleportation array to escape back to the Tianxin sect. As long as he returned to the Tianxin sect, he would be safe. In the future, when he recovered from his injuries, he would definitely return to the Divine Ruins continent and kill all of Lu Ming's friends and family, completely destroying the Divine Wilderness continent. The burly man from the Heavenly Gods sect had a cold glint in his eyes. I won't let you have your way. Lu Ming's eyes were determined. More energy poured into the air-frozen bead. Lu Ming exerted the wind element technique to the extreme and his speed increased. The distance between him and the burly man from the deity sect was closing. Hurry, hurry. The burly man from the Heaven God sect roared in his heart and tried his best to escape. Soon, a huge ancient city appeared in front of them. Buzz! Buzz! The two people, one in front and one behind, rushed into the ancient divine ruined city. What's that? What a powerful fluctuation. That's an emperor. He's so powerful. Who is he? In the ancient city of the divine ruins, some experts were alarmed, looking at the sky in shock. In front of him, the 36 Tiangang peaks were in sight. We're here, we're almost here. The burly man from the Heavenly Gods sect was shining with hope. Power, come. You're courting death. Lu Ming shouted angrily. An even stronger force from the air-frozen bead gushed into Lu Ming's body. His body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The air-frozen bead contained a lot of power. Lu Ming could not withstand the influx of too much power and was injured by the force. However, because of this, Lu Ming's speed also increased greatly. He suddenly sped up and approached the burly man from the Divine God sect. Buzz! The dragon vein sword slashed down towards the burly man from the Heavenly God sect. Not good. The burly man from the Heaven God sect was shocked. He quickly turned around and waved his sword to block. Clang! The burly man from the Heaven God sect was sent flying, and blood spurted out of his mouth. Suppress! Above Lu Ming's head, the prison-suppressing steel bloodline emerged. Lu Ming transformed into the prison-suppressing steel and suppressed the burly man from the Heaven God sect. Boom! The burly man from the Heaven God sect was hit by the prison-suppressing steel. His body was like a meteorite, crashing down heavily. He smashed Effecta Peak and his body almost cracked. The prison-guarding steel, why do you have the prison-guarding steel too? Is this a bloodline? No, it's the fragment of the prison-suppressing steel. The burly man from the Heaven God sect struggled to get up. He looked at Lu Ming's prison-suppressing steel bloodline and shouted in disbelief. Boom! Lu Ming could not be bothered with him. The prison-suppressing steel pressed down again. This time, he had almost killed the burly man from the Heavenly God sect. The burly man was extremely weak. The long sword in his hand had flown out. He no longer had the strength to resist. Spare me, spare me. The burly man from the Heavenly Divine sect shouted in fear. Spare my life? When you wanted to kill me before, you didn't show any mercy. If it wasn't for my good luck, I would have died. Lu Ming's cold voice came from the prison-suppressing steel. The prison-suppressing steel trembled and emitted a cold killing intent. It was about to suppress the man from the Tianxin sect once again. Wait a minute, Lu Ming. You've awakened the bloodline of the prison-guarding steel. If you can get the original body of the prison-guarding steel, you'll be like a tiger that has grown wings. The burly man from the Heavenly God sect suddenly shouted. You know the true form of the prison-guarding steel? Lu Ming's voice was heard as the prison-suppressing steel's murderous intent was halted. Seeing that Lu Ming was moved, the burly man from the Heavenly God sect was overjoyed. That's right. It said that the prison-guarding steel was broken by someone in the distant past. It was broken into several pieces and scattered all over the world. I know a piece of the prison-guarding steel fragment is in the Tianxin sect. The Heavenly God sect. Lu Ming was shocked. That's right. As long as you promise to let me go, I will definitely find a way to help you steal the fragment of the prison-suppressing steel when I return to the divine sect. The heavenly deity burly man cried out. However, a scheme was brewing in his heart. Hee, do you think I will believe you? The fragment of the prison-guarding steel is a treasure that the Tianqian sect will definitely protect. With your cultivation, you are definitely not a high-level figure in the Tianqian sect. How could you have obtained the fragment of the prison-guarding steel? Do you think I am so easy to fool? Even if the Tianqian sect really has the fragment of the prison-guarding steel, I will get it myself in the future. So, you should just die. Lu Ming's cold voice was heard and he was about to kill the burly man from the heavenly god sect. Buzz! At this moment, one of the 9 ancient altars in the sky suddenly shone with a dazzling light. Lu Ming was shocked. The altar was glowing, which meant that people from the major sects of the Yuanlu continent were coming. Wasn't there still half a month to the 2-year agreement with the major sects of the Yuanlu continent? Could it be that the big sects of the Yuanlu continent had come in advance? Buzz! When the first altar lit up, the second altar lit up as well, and then the third. A total of 3 altars lit up. Then, a space gate appeared, and 2 figures appeared on each of the 3 altars. The people of the heavenly god sect. Lu Ming's eyes narrowed. Lu Ming recognized one of the people on one of the altars. It was a white-haired elder. He was the white-haired elder from the heavenly god sect that he had met when they were selecting disciples. Behind the white-haired elder was a young man whom he had never seen before. Chapter 1390. 1390 The terrifying combat strength of the paragon of the Yuanlu continent. Then, Lu Ming's gaze shifted to the other 2 altars. Dragon God Valley, and the Tianyu demon sect. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. On one of the altars, the middle-aged man from Dragon God Valley, who had been to the continent of divine ruins last time, appeared. Behind him was a young man. On the 3rd altar, there were 2 strong cultivators from the Tianyu demon sect. They were both middle-aged. Deacon, save me. This Lu Ming wants to kill me. As soon as he saw the white-haired old man of the heavenly god sect, the burly man of the heavenly god sect was ecstatic and shouted madly as if he had found his savior. The burly man from the heavenly divine sect shouted and people from several sides looked at Lu Ming and the rest. What? Lu Ming, how dare you? The white-haired elder of the heaven god sect reacted and shouted. Kill! At the same time, the prison-suppressing steel shook and pressed down on the burly man from the heavenly god sect. There was no time to lose. The major sects of the Yuanlu continent had arrived early, which was out of Lu Ming's expectations. However, he had to kill the burly man from the deity sect. Therefore, Lu Ming took action directly. He was straightforward and decisive. No, you. The burly man from the heavenly god sect cried out in despair. He had not expected that Lu Ming would still have the guts to attack him after seeing the arrival of the white-haired elder from the heavenly god sect. Boom! The prison-suppressing steel did not stop. As it pressed down, the burly man from the heavenly god sect was torn into pieces and his body and soul were destroyed. How dare you! You're looking for death. A cold shout came from the sky. The white-haired elder of the heavenly god sect emitted an extremely terrifying aura. The strength of this aura far exceeded that of the burly man from before. In front of him, Lu Ming was like an ant. Bang! Under this pressure, Lu Ming could not maintain the form of the prison-suppressing steel and it collapsed. Lu Ming's real body appeared, pale and almost spitting out blood. What do you want to do? Do you think the disciples of Dragon God Valley are easy to bully? Get lost! Just as Lu Ming was about to give in, a loud shout was heard. The burly man from the Dragon God Valley shouted and an aura that was not weaker than the white-haired elder's burst forth, blocking the white-haired elder's aura. Lu Ming then felt his body lighten and the pressure disappeared. He could not help but let out a long breath. His heart was heavy. Strong, they were too strong. Whether it was the white-haired elder of the Tianqian sect or the middle-aged man of the Dragon God Valley, they were all too strong. They had surpassed Lu Ming by many times. Lu Ming seemed to be very strong in the continent group of the Divine Ruins, but compared to the experts of the Yuan continent, he was much weaker. He felt that if the white-haired elder of the Tianqian sect and the middle-aged man of the Dragon God Valley wanted to kill him, they could do it with a flip of their hands. You want to stop me? This little bastard killed the people of my Tianqian sect in front of me. He must die. The white-haired old man looked at the burly man from Dragon God Valley coldly. Must die? How laughable. With me here, how are you going to kill him? The middle-aged man from Dragon God Valley stared at the white-haired elder. Are you deliberately going against my Tianqian sect? The white-haired old man's face was gloomy, and the burly man from Dragon God Valley sneered. Kill. Suddenly, the white-haired elder moved and charged toward Lu Ming. I knew you would sneak attack. The middle-aged man from the Dragon God Valley followed suit and punched the white-haired elder. Boom. The two of them exchanged a blow, and the world rumbled. However, the two of them condensed their power and did not release it. Otherwise, the ancient city of the Divine Ruins would be in danger. If you want to fight, go up and fight. Then I'll kill you first. The brawny man from Dragon God Valley and the white-haired elder from the Tianqian sect rushed into the sky and started a fierce battle. Who? At this moment, a terrifying pressure came from the sky. A terrifying palm force was pressing down on Lu Ming. It was the young man from the Heavenly Gods sect. At this moment, he suddenly made a move and launched an attack on Lu Ming. Boom! Without thinking, Lu Ming threw a punch at the sky. When the fist and the palm collided, Lu Ming's expression changed. He could feel waves of energy surging towards him continuously. Lu Ming's body trembled and he retreated continuously. Buzz! A figure landed in front of Lu Ming. It was the young man from the Heavenly Gods sect. Brat, with your supreme martial artist cultivation, you can take one of my palm strikes. Not bad, but I only used 30% of my power in that palm strike just now. Try taking another palm strike. The young man from the Tianqian sect sent another palm strike at Lu Ming. The power of this palm strike was much stronger than the previous one. Lu Ming's expression was grave. He exerted all his strength and cast the prison-suppressing heaven technique. The embryonic form of the chaos domain covered his fist and he threw a punch. Boom! The fist collided with the palm print for the second time. Just like the last time, Lu Ming felt an irresistible force surging toward him. He could not help but retreat. How can he be so strong? Lu Ming was shocked and in disbelief. That was because he could clearly see that his opponent's realm was not ridiculously strong. Second-level Martial Emperor realm. Moreover, he was at the early stage of the second-level Martial Royal realm. At this level, if it was a martial artist from the Divine Ruins continent group, he could kill them at will. But now, except for the Chaos Sky-turning seal, he had used all his strength, but he was still no match for his opponent. Moreover, he felt that the other party had not used his full strength at all. There was an unfathomable feeling about him. Lu Ming estimated that even if he used the Chaos Sky-turning seal, he might not be able to do anything to the other party. The other party's combat strength was too strong. Could it be that the other party was a heavens chosen from the Tianqian sect? Lu Ming had all sorts of guesses in his heart. Interesting. If you can take my second palm, what about my third palm? The young man from the Heavenly Gods sect felt embarrassed after failing to kill Lu Ming with 2 consecutive palm strikes. His face turned cold. The aura on his body was even stronger. You're just putting on an act here. If you have the ability, fight me. At this time, a loud shout was heard. A burly young man suddenly appeared behind the young man from the Heavenly Gods sect and attacked him. The young man from the Heavenly Gods sect turned pale. He could not be bothered with Lu Ming and turned around to fight with the burly young man. The burly young man was the young man who had come with the burly man from Dragon God Valley. The two of them fought, and it was difficult to determine the winner. What powerful strength! Lu Ming's eyes were filled with shock. The cultivation of the burly youth from Dragon God Valley was similar to that of the youth from the Tianqian sect. They were both in the early stage of the second-level martial emperor realm. However, their combat strength was unusually amazing. Lu Ming felt that some of the weaker fourth-level martial emperors on the continent group of the Divine Ruins were not their opponents. Yuan continent is indeed not simple. Lu Ming sighed in his heart. His eyes shone with stronger anticipation. Without a doubt, there were many experts in the Yuan continent, far more than the continents of the Divine Ruins. This made Lu Ming look forward to it. And now, Lu Ming knew that it was very likely that the deity sect had a fragment of the prison-suppressing steel, which made him look forward to it even more. He had a feeling that if he gathered all the fragments of the prison-suppressing steel, the bloodline of the prison-suppressing steel would definitely undergo a shocking change. The battle between the two sides was extremely intense, but their combat strength was equal. It was difficult to determine the victor. Chapter 1391. 1391 Chapter 1391 Parting. In the ancient city of the Divine Ruins, everyone was alarmed. Some people fled outside, while some people came towards Lu Ming and the others. When they sensed the fluctuations of the battle, they also retreated frantically in fear. At this moment, Lu Ming had a thought and Xian Yanqing appeared. Xian Yanqing. As soon as Xian Yanqing appeared, the eyes of the two middle-aged men from the Tianyu demon sect lit up. Lu Ming, what's going on? Xian Yanqing looked around with a puzzled expression. Previously, in the mountain and river diagram, she saw that her second body was severely injured while Dandan and Bubbles were unconscious. She could not help but feel very worried. Now that she saw that Lu Ming was fine, she heaved a sigh of relief. Lu Ming briefly explained the situation. I see. Xian Yanqing's eyes turned as he saluted the two middle-aged men from the Tianyu demon sect. The two men sized up Xian Yanqing and nodded with a smile as if they were very satisfied. Xian Yanqing's cultivation had reached the Supreme Being level, which surprised them but also satisfied them. 2 years ago, they had seen Xian Yanqing. At that time, they were very clear about Xian Yanqing's cultivation. In the continent of the Divine Ruins, he was able to break through to the Supreme Being realm in just 2 years. This kind of talent made them value Xian Yanqing even more. Following that, Xian Yanqing mumbled to the two middle-aged men. One of the middle-aged men nodded and flew into the sky. He joined forces with the burly man from Dragon God Valley to fight the white-haired old man. Tianyu demon sect, you. The white-haired old man let out a furious roar. However, he was no match for the two experts' joint attack. He was suppressed and could only retreat quickly, flying out of the battle circle. Old man, if you want to fight, I don't mind killing you today. The burly man from Dragon God Valley sneered. Good, very good. Do you really think that our Tianqian sect is easy to bully? Let's wait and see. The white-haired old man said angrily, but he didn't dare to make a move. The white-haired old man stopped, and the two young men also stopped and retreated. People of the continent of the Divine Ruins, listen up. I am a deacon of the deity sect in the Yuan continent. Tell those disciples of the deity sect who have not gone to the Yuan continent to get their asses here. The white-haired elder's voice spread far and wide. Hee hee. The middle-aged man from Dragon God Valley sneered and walked to Lu Ming's side. He sized Lu Ming up and his eyes lit up. As expected of a prodigy who has awakened the 9-dragon bloodline. His talent is amazing. It's only been 2 years, and his cultivation has already reached the supreme level. It's really rare in a place like the Divine Ruins continent. Thank you for your help, Senior. Lu Ming bowed. Ha, you're a disciple of my Dragon God Valley. I'm Long Yuan Shan, a deacon of Dragon God Valley. You can just call me Deacon Long. Long Yuan Shan said heroically. Then, he introduced the young man to the Dragon Guard. Right, what happened? Long Yuan Mountain's eyes looked at the corpse of the burly man from the God of Heaven sect and revealed a puzzled look. He was well aware of the cultivation base of the burly man from the Heavenly God sect. However, he found it unbelievable that he was killed by Lu Ming. It's like this. Lu Ming did not hide anything and explained the matter roughly. From 2 years ago, he was besieged by the burly man of the Heavenly God sect and the others to the recent events. Of course, Lu Ming did not mention anything important. For example, he did not mention his entry into the Chaos Hall, his cultivation of the Chaos Will, Dandan, and Bubbles. It was only said that the burly man from the Heavenly God sect was injured by the headless true dragon knight at the core of the divine ruins. He was killed because he was seriously injured. Damn it, the Tianqin sect is so despicable. They secretly besieged and killed the disciples of my Dragon God Valley. Long Yuan Shan shouted in anger and looked at the white-haired elder of the Heavenly God sect unkindly. He seemed to be thinking whether he should attack the white-haired elder or not. The white-haired old man revealed a wary expression. In the end, Long Yuan Mountain also had some apprehensions and did not make a move. It's good to kill such trash. It's a pity that Long Chen was accepted as a disciple by the Divine Elephant Sex experts. However, his bloodline is more suitable for the Divine Elephant sect. Long Yuan Shan mumbled. He then looked at Lu Ming and asked, Lu Ming, did you really obtain a mixed essence token in the Battle of Providence? Yes, I am. Lu Ming nodded. He did not hide the fact that he had a primordial chaos token. Ha, that's amazing. Who knows, you might have a fortuitous encounter in the future. Long Yuan Shan's eyes flashed with joy. Then, he didn't ask further. In actual fact, there were many things that did not make sense in Lu Ming's words. Long Yuan Mountain could naturally tell that, but he also knew that it was Lu Ming's secret. Lu Ming was so young and he had such a cultivation. It was normal for him to have some secrets. However, some people from the Divine Ruins continent are quite bold. They actually dared to attack the disciples of my Dragon God Valley. They should be taught a lesson. Dragon Guard, go and knock some sense into those who are still alive. Let them remember that our Dragon God Valley is not destroyed. Lu Ming is our disciple. If they want to deal with Lu Ming's family and friends in the future, then they don't need to exist anymore. Long Yuan Mountain said. Yes. The Dragon Guard nodded, then stepped into the air and left. Many thanks, Deacon Long. Lu Ming expressed his thanks. Lu Ming knew that Long Yuan Mountain was doing this to appease him. Lu Ming really needed this favor. Although most of the sovereigns in the Divine Ruins continent group had been killed by Lu Ming in the previous battle, Lu Ming was still very powerful. However, the major forces still had some experts left. Although there were not many experts left, Lu Ming was still worried that these people would cause trouble for the Divine Wilderness continent after he left. However, with the help of the powerhouses of Dragon God Valley, these forces should be more obedient. Not long after, a genius arrived. It was Ji Hongqian. Ji Hongqian's father, Ji Feng, did not participate in the capture of Lu Ming due to Ji Hongqian's advice. Hence, he was spared. There weren't many Heaven's favorites left in the Heavenly God sect. There were only 2 of them. Soon, the 2 of them arrived. The white-haired elder of the Heavenly God sect led them onto the ancient altar and left. Lu Ming, I have to go too. Xian Yanqing came to Lu Ming's side and said reluctantly. The Tianyu demonic sect had only come to pick up Xian Yanqing. Now, they were about to set off. Little Qing, don't worry. I've asked the seniors of Long Yuan Mountain. Dragon God Valley and the Tianyu demon sect are in the same territory and not too far apart. I'll visit you in the future. Lu Ming held Xian Yanqing's hand and said. Okay. Xian Yanqing nodded and suddenly kissed Lu Ming on the lips. Lu Ming, you have to work hard. Don't let me surpass your cultivation the next time we meet. With that, she smiled brightly and turned to leave. Lu Ming smiled as he watched Xian Yanqing and the two powerhouses from the Tianyu demon sect leave. There was a hint of reluctance in his eyes. Little Qing, don't worry. This separation is only temporary. When we both have the strength to move unhindered in the world, there will be no need to separate anymore. Lu Ming muttered. His gaze became determined again. A few days later, the news of Lu Ming's battle with the powerhouses of the four great divine palaces spread wildly throughout the Divine Ruins continent and to other continents. In this battle, Lu Ming had killed the four divine palaces and all the top powerhouses from the other continents in one fell swoop. Countless people who had heard the news were dumbfounded. Chapter 1392. 1392 The Boundless Primordial Realm. All the powerhouses who went to capture Lu Ming were killed by him. It was a shocking scene. The continent group of the Divine Ruins had an unprecedented shock. After this battle, the continent group of the Divine Ruins was destined to have a major reshuffling. Then, there was news that the Dragon God Valley was not destroyed and was safe and sound. The news that the Dragon God Valley had been destroyed was false. This piece of news made all the major factions keep quiet out of fear. They had no disloyalty towards Lu Ming and the Divine Wilderness continent. Even those peak experts had died. They didn't want to die. Furthermore, the Dragon God Valley had not been destroyed. Lu Ming was now a disciple of the Dragon God Valley. Even if they were given 100 times more courage, they would not dare to touch the Divine Wilderness continent. The ancient Divine Ruins city, under the sacrificial altar. Lu Ming, if there's anything else you need to deal with, do it together. When you're done, we'll head to Dragon God Valley. Longyuan Mountain said. Lu Ming looked towards the south. It was as if he had pierced through the void and landed on the Divine Wilderness continent. After a while, Lu Ming shook his head and said, No, Senior, let's go. Before Lu Ming left, he had already made all the arrangements for the Divine Wilderness continent. And now, the matter of the Divine Ruins continent group had already been resolved, so he did not need to worry too much. The only thing he had to do now was to go to the Yuan continent and cultivate. When his cultivation improved, it would be easy for him to come back and visit. Alright, let's go. Longyuan Mountain said. The three of them ascended an ancient altar and stepped through the light door of the altar. Lu Ming seemed to have stepped into a void channel. Countless lights and shadows flashed in his surroundings. After an unknown period of time, his body shook and the light disappeared. Lu Ming found himself on an ancient stone platform. Looking around, he was surrounded by desolate mountains. Is this the Yuan continent? Lu Ming looked around curiously and stepped out of the stone platform. Boom! The moment he walked out of the stone platform, a terrifying pressure was exerted on Lu Ming's body. Lu Ming's body trembled and he almost fell to his knees. He exerted some strength to stabilize his body. This is... Lu Ming felt that his body seemed to have become a few hundred times heavier. The surrounding air seemed to have become incomparably heavy and was constantly pressing down on his body. What's going on? Lu Ming was bewildered. He exerted force in his body to offset the external pressure. Lu Ming, do you feel that your body has become a few hundred times heavier? There's a strong pressure in the surroundings that's acting on you. Longyuan Shan walked out of the stone platform and smiled. That's right. Deacon, what's going on? Lu Ming asked, feeling extremely curious. Lu Ming, if you want to understand what's going on, you must first have a rough outline of the entire primordial realm's geographical distribution. Longyuan Shan said. Then, he waved his hand and an image appeared in the sky. On the image, there was a vast ocean. The primordial realm is a boundless ocean. In the ocean, there are countless continents, and the primordial continent is in the center of the ocean. Longyuan Mountain stretched out its hand, and in the center of the ocean, a continent appeared. This continent was very large. It occupied a large area even in the vast ocean. This was the Yuan continent. In the primordial realm, the primordial land is the center and spreads out. There are countless large and small continents. In fact, most of them can't be called continents and can only be considered islands. Longyuan Mountain then waved his hand. With Yuan continent as the center, numerous black dots appeared on the ocean. These black dots were all continents. However, compared to the size of Yuan continent, they were like dust. Even some of the bigger ones couldn't be compared. The difference was too great. So many. Lu Ming gasped. He looked at the ocean and the countless black dots that were densely packed together. He was filled with shock. Could all of these be continents, continents like the divine wilderness continent? Senior, where is that divine ruins continent group? Lu Ming asked again. Here, here. Longyuan Mountain pointed to the vast ocean in the south of the Yuan continent, a corner that was extremely far away from the Yuan continent. There were some black dots scattered there. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. The Divine Ruins continent group was too far away from the Yuan continent, and it was also too small. It was like a speck of dust, almost negligible in the entire picture. Was this the Divine Ruins continent group that he had been living in? In the entire primordial realm, it was so small that it was beyond Lu Ming's imagination. The entire primordial realm is a complete macro world. It is also very strange. The primordial land is the center of the primordial realm. The laws of heaven and earth are also the most perfect and flawless. Therefore, the heaven and earth on the primordial land are stable and the original chi is rich. It is a true holy land for cultivation. With the Yuan continent as the center and spreading out, the laws of heaven and earth will become weaker and weaker. They will become more and more incomplete. The space will become extremely unstable and the origin energy will become thinner and thinner. You can easily tear space in the Divine Ruins continent group, but here, can you try? Longyuan Mountain explained to Lu Ming patiently. It's actually like this. Lu Ming was amazed. He took a deep breath and realized that the heaven and earth here was filled with rich origin energy. It was origin energy, not spirit energy. Here, the spiritual chi of heaven and earth was very thin, and most of it was origin chi. He casually took a breath and the rolling original chi gathered in his body. Boom! Then, Lu Ming threw a punch. However, a shocking scene appeared. His fist only pierced through the air and made a terrible whistling sound. However, the space didn't move at all. There wasn't even a ripple. What a stable space. Unbelievable. In the Divine Ruins continent group, he could easily tear space and pierce through the void, but here, there was not even a ripple in the space. The closer we are to the Yuan continent, the more perfect the laws of heaven and earth are. Everything in the world is also the most perfect and stable. Naturally, the gravity will be stronger and the pressure that people will feel will be stronger. Longyuan Mountain explained. Bang! Lu Ming stomped heavily on the ground, causing the rocks to crack and a pit to appear. It's so hard. Lu Ming's pupils constricted. He could clearly sense that the rocks here were just ordinary rocks and not some hard metal ore. Although he did not use his full strength, if he had been in the continent group of the Divine Ruins, a mountain range would have collapsed. However, here, it was only a pit. Even ordinary rocks were so hard. Longyuan Mountain was right. Everything in the world here had become more stable because of the perfection of the heaven and earth laws, far more stable than the continents of the Divine Ruins. The destructive power of a martial royal realm expert here would be much lower than that of the continent group of the Divine Ruins. Of course, it also meant that it would be more dangerous for martial artists to go out and take risks. This was because the power of nature had become stronger. Following that, Lu Ming soared into the sky and tried flying. As expected, the speed of flying here was at least a few dozen times slower than the Divine Ruins continents. Chapter 1393. 1393 Arriving at Dragon God Valley. Given Lu Ming's cultivation level, he would be tens of times slower even if he were to fly, let alone tear open space. Yuan continent, it is indeed extraordinary. Lu Ming sighed. Lu Ming, you're wrong. This is not Yuan continent. Long Yuan Mountain laughed. On the side, the Dragon Guard also smiled. Lu Ming's reaction was within their expectations. What? This isn't the Yuan continent? Lu Ming's pupils shrank and he was shocked. Yes, I am. Long Yuan Shan waved his hand and the painting in the air disappeared. This is just a small island near the Yuan continent. In your eyes, this is a continent. If we are really in the Yuan continent, the pressure from the outside world will be stronger than this. Everything in the world will be more stable than this. What? Lu Ming was shocked. This place was not the Yuan continent, but an island near the Yuan continent. He was just close to the Yuan continent, but everything in the world was so stable. The pressure from the outside world was so strong. How terrifying would the true Yuan continent be? However, Lu Ming immediately thought of something. The cultivation environment here was already dozens of times better than the continent of the Divine Ruins. How good would the cultivation environment of the Yuan continent be? The pressure from the outside world was nothing. He would get used to it after some time. The cultivation environment was the most important thing. It could allow him to break through continuously. Lu Ming's eyes were filled with even more anticipation. Lu Ming, this is a transit point for outsiders to get used to it. Otherwise, I'm afraid you won't be able to handle it if you enter the Yuan continent at once. Long Yuan Shan explained with a smile. Lu Ming nodded to express his understanding. Let's go. There should be other people here. We'll be staying here for half a month. Long Yuan Mountain said before walking forward. After crossing a huge mountain, he saw some attics in front of him. Lu Ming noticed that there were also some young people living there. The cultivation of these youths was very strong. There were those at the 8th, 9th, and even the great circle of the spiritual god realm. Lu Ming saw the most powerful ones at the supreme level. He learned from Long Yuan Mountain that these young men were disciples recruited from various continents by Dragon God Valley. Like Lu Ming, they had stayed in their original continents because of some matters and had only gone to Dragon God Valley now. Therefore, there were not many of them, only about 100. Lu Ming was assigned to a room. The next half a month was mainly to adapt to the environment here. That was because the environment of the continent cluster of the Divine Ruins and the Yuan continent were too different. Hoo. In the pavilion's courtyard, Lu Ming performed a set of fist techniques and his body was flying around. He allowed his body to slowly adapt to the environment here. At the same time, he also allowed the speed and frequency of the true essence in his meridians to adapt to this place. A few hours later, Lu Ming stopped. He felt very comfortable. His body had also adapted to it slightly. In the beginning, when Lu Ming took action, he would either use more or less force. Now, he was much better. The origin chi here is really dense. Also, the intent realm of the heaven and earth is really clear. Lu Ming sensed carefully. Here, the intent realm of heaven and earth was dozens of times clearer than the Divine Ruins continent group. In other words, it was many times easier for warriors to comprehend the intent realm of heaven and earth here than in the Divine Ruins continent group. In the blink of an eye, half a month passed. Lu Ming and more than 100 other young men stepped into the teleportation array and headed to the Yuan continent. It was the same feeling as riding in the space passage. After an unknown amount of time, that feeling disappeared, and they reappeared on a huge altar. This place. It's a snow mountain. Lu Ming swept his gaze around and realized that he was in a snow mountain. Little guys, welcome to the Dragon God Valley of the Yuanlu. Long Yuan Shan's deep voice resounded and he stepped out of the altar. Come out, you'd better be prepared. Lu Ming's heart stirred. He understood what Long Yuan Mountain meant. The laws of heaven and earth in the Yuan continent were perfect, so the pressure between heaven and earth might be greater. On the altar, because of the protection of the formation, he could not feel it. Let's go. Yuanlu, I've finally arrived. These young men were extremely excited as they flew out of the altar. However, after these young men flew out of the altar, their bodies trembled. A few of the weakest ones almost lost their balance. What a strong pressure. Lu Ming flew out of the altar as well. He instantly felt a terrifying pressure acting on his body. His body weight was also extremely shocking. The pressure here was probably several hundred times, even 1,000 times that of the Divine Ruins continent cluster. Lu Ming was extremely shocked. Also, it's so cold. Lu Ming felt his body turn cold. This was a snow mountain, and the temperature was shockingly low. With Lu Ming's cultivation, he could not feel the usual cold. However, the temperature here made him feel chilly. This heaven-earth yuan qi. Lu Ming took a deep breath. In an instant, rolling original qi between heaven and earth flowed into him. It was unimaginably dense. Lu Ming felt that if he breathed casually, the amount of original qi would be equivalent to the amount of a low-grade raw stone. In the world, the original qi was rich, while the spiritual qi was extremely thin. Buzz! In the distance, a burly elder wearing a short-sleeved shirt with his arms bare flew over and landed in front of Lu Ming and the rest. Long Yuan Mountain and the others greeted the old man. Lu Ming, I'll take my leave first. This Deacon Long Yuan Chuan will arrange your accommodation. Long Yuan Mountain said to Lu Ming. Lu Ming nodded. Then, Long Yuan Mountain and the others who had gone to the other continents to pick up people like him left one after another. Alright, come with me. I'll take you to your living quarters. After Long Yuan Chuan said that, he flew forward. Everyone quickly followed. However, they had just arrived and the pressure from the outside world was too strong. They were not used to it yet. This was after adapting to the transition station for half a month. Otherwise, it would have been even more difficult. After flying down the snow mountain, their field of view widened. In front of them, a huge glacier valley appeared. This ice mountain valley was formed by the separation of two mountain ranges. In the sky, snow was falling, and the world was covered in white. Lu Ming looked into the distance and realized that there were also snow mountains in front of the huge glacier canyon. However, they were far away and in the vast snow, they could not see clearly. Dragon Qi, so much Dragon Qi. What a strong Dragon Qi. Lu Ming felt his 9-dragon bloodline heating up. He was shocked when he sensed it through his 9-dragon bloodline. Through the 9-dragon bloodline, he seemed to be able to see countless dragon qi rising into the sky from the glacier valley and the snow mountain in the distance. In the huge canyon, there was a lot of weak dragon qi. However, behind the canyon, in the vast snow mountain, there was some shocking dragon qi. Lu Ming was like an ant in front of it. Boom! A terrifying pressure pressed down on Lu Ming. His expression changed drastically, and he could not help but take a few steps back. He quickly retracted his senses. So powerful. That aura far surpasses that of an emperor. Is that the aura of a saint? Lu Ming's heart was in turmoil. There were definitely saints in Dragon God Valley, and there was more than one. Chapter 1394. 1394 Chapter 1394 Qiu's siblings. The burly elder, Long Yuanchuan, glanced at Lu Ming and said, "There are many experts in the valley. You'd better not use your bloodline to sense it, or you'll only be asking for trouble." Lu Ming smiled wryly. The rest of the people had looks of respect on their faces. It was obvious that Lu Ming was not the only one who sensed the aura in the snow mountain ahead through his blood meridian. The disciples recruited by Dragon God Valley were all geniuses who had awakened the true dragon bloodline. They could easily sense each other. The group continued to fly forward. It's so cold. After flying into the huge glacier valley, the temperature dropped even more. Moreover, the temperature was getting lower and lower as they went further in. Lu Ming sized up his surroundings as he flew. The glacier valley was huge. The walls on both sides were tens of thousands of feet high. On the walls, one could see houses and palaces carved out of ice. However, most of them were cave abodes, which were excavated from the walls of the glacier. Moreover, on both sides of the canyon, there were some side valleys. It was like a main vein that extended into some side valleys. Some people also lived in these side valleys. After flying for more than 10 minutes, the burly old man led them into a side valley. On both sides of the side valley, there were many cave abodes. At a glance, there were at least thousands of them. Many of the cave abodes were already occupied. As if sensing someone's arrival, people walked out of some cave abodes. They were all very young and were of the same generation as Lu Ming and the others. What a strong cultivation! Lu Ming sensed the cultivation of these people and his pupils constricted. Supreme martial artist. These young men were all supreme martial artists. However, Lu Ming was immediately relieved. The cultivation environment here was too good. It was many times better than the Divine Ruins continent group. Even a pig could cultivate to the martial king realm or even the third spiritual god realm here, not to mention those peerless geniuses. Alright, you can stay here for the time being. The people here are the same as you, they are all newly selected disciples from the outer continent, but they came here 2 years earlier than you. Also, this entire glacier valley is only the outer valley. You are not official disciples of Dragon God Valley yet. You can only be regarded as reserve disciples. Only by passing the assessment can you be considered as official disciples of Dragon God Valley. There are still 4 months left before the assessment. During this period of time, all of you should focus on your cultivation. With your talent, it shouldn't be too difficult for you to reach the Jizuan realm in 4 months. Most of those who came here 2 years ago have already reached the Jizuan realm. Let me tell you, there will be a huge opportunity in the assessment this time. Other people will be envious of it. The higher your cultivation, the greater the chance of obtaining the opportunity. So, you must grasp it and work hard. The burly old man explained in detail. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat. They were not official disciples yet. They were only reserve disciples. They had to pass an assessment before they could be considered official disciples. The standards of the big sects in the Yuanlu continent were really strict. At this time, the burly old man waved his hand, and a jade token appeared in his hand. On the token, an ice dragon was carved, and it was very lifelike. The burly elder waved his hand and the jade tokens flew toward Lu Ming and the others. Lu Ming casually grabbed a token. There is a number on this token, which represents the ice cave number you will be staying in. You can check in according to the number. Also, this token is also the identity token of your reserve disciples. Alright, you should get used to it and cultivate. I will come back after a while to explain the assessment in detail. With that, the burly old man left. Everyone followed the number on the jade token to find the corresponding ice cave. Hello, brother. Just as Lu Ming was about to look for his cave abode, a crisp voice was heard. Lu Ming turned to the side and saw a woman smiling at him. The lady was dressed in a white dress. She had a sweet smile and fair skin. She was a rare beauty. Behind the woman was a young man in a white shirt and holding a folding fan. What? Lu Ming was a little surprised. He didn't recognize these two people. They should be disciples who came here 2 years ago and had just walked out of the ice cave. Since they didn't know each other, why did the other party greet him? Hello. Lu Ming responded politely. The young woman blinked and sized Lu Ming up carefully, seemingly very curious. Lu Ming touched his nose and was somewhat speechless. Lu Ming would not be so narcissistic as to think that a beautiful woman would fall for him the moment he arrived. Little sister, what are you doing? Behind the woman, the man with the folding fan was also very curious. Your bloodline is very special. The woman suddenly said. What? Lu Ming was stunned again. Brother, please don't misunderstand. I am Chiu Ying, and this is my elder brother, Chiu Hao. How should I address you? The woman said with a smile. Lu Ming. Lu Ming answered. Brother Lu, my bloodline is rather unique. I've been sensing your bloodline for a while now, and I can feel that your bloodline has been suppressing mine. That's why I'm curious and want to befriend you. Chiu Ying said. So that was how it was. Lu Ming speculated that the other party might have sensed his 9-dragon bloodline. Buzz. At that moment, the shadow of a true dragon appeared behind Chiu Ying. It flashed past, but Lu Ming could still see it clearly. Chiu Ying's true dragon bloodline was not a 5-clawed true dragon, but a 6-clawed one. It was actually 6-clawed. It was said that all true dragons had 5 claws, and 9 dragons were a variant of the true dragon race, so they had 9 claws. However, Lu Ming did not expect that there was a 6-clawed true dragon in the world. Perhaps it was also a variant of the true dragon. Lu Ming made a guess. Brother Lu, my bloodline is a bit special. It's a variant of the true dragon species. I have 6 claws and am stronger than the average true dragon. You can suppress me. Chiu Ying blinked her eyes and sized Lu Ming up carefully. She was extremely curious. My bloodline? Lu Ming muttered. As he spoke, the 9-dragon bloodline appeared behind him and he immediately kept it. Chiu Ying and Chiu Hao's eyes widened. 9 dragons, your bloodline is actually the legendary 9 dragons. No wonder you can suppress me. Chiu Ying exclaimed in shock. Lu Ming smiled. There was nothing to hide about his 9-dragon bloodline. Once they started fighting, others would know immediately. Brother Lu, it's your first time here. Have a good rest. My brother and I came here 2 years earlier. We'll take you around in a few days. Chiu Ying said with a smile. All right, then I'll thank you in advance. Lu Ming cupped his fists and then found his ice cave and walked in. At the entrance of the ice cave, there was an ice door. It was activated by a jade talisman and automatically closed. The ice cave was very large and wide. It was at least 100 meters in length and width and 10 meters in height. There were ice tables, ice chairs, and even an ice bed. The temperature here was extremely low, so there was no need to worry about these things melting. Chapter 1395, 1395 The Growth of the Path. Understanding ancient tree. Lu Ming walked to the wall and clawed at the ice wall. Gotcha! Only a few claw marks appeared on the ice wall. They did not look very deep. It's so hard. Everything in the world of the Yuan continent is many times harder than that transit station. It's incomparable to the continent of the divine ruins. Lu Ming secretly sighed. After that, Lu Ming started to practice martial arts to get used to the external pressure. After playing for a few hours, Lu Ming finally stopped. He felt very comfortable. Then, Lu Ming sat cross-legged and began to cultivate. As soon as he activated the true war dragon technique, the rich origin energy in the air began to gather towards Lu Ming at an alarming speed. What a dense heaven-earth yuan qi! Lu Ming realized that directly absorbing the original energy of heaven and earth here was better than devouring low-grade raw stones. This was too shocking. When one cultivated here, one did not even need low-grade raw stones. The rolling original chi was constantly being devoured and refined, turning into true essence. At the same time, Lu Ming's heart sank into a state of emptiness. He began to comprehend the heaven and earth and nurture the embryonic form of the chaos domain. Here, Lu Ming realized that not only did the essence realm of the heaven and earth become extremely clear, but the Tao of the heaven and earth that was even more profound and unfathomable than the essence realm of the heaven and earth also became clearer. This was almost impossible to sense on the Divine Ruins continent. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Comprehending the great Tao of heaven and earth could allow the Emperor's domain to improve faster. It was no wonder that in the Divine Ruins continent, the cultivation of emperors was very slow. Especially in the Divine Wilderness continent, most of the sovereigns were stuck at the first level of the martial royal realm. Those who could reach the second level of the martial royal realm were all top experts, and there were very few of them. It was no wonder that the emperors of the continent group of the Divine Ruins would rack their brains to think of the Yuan continent and all wanted to join the major sects in the Yuan continent to cultivate. It was because the cultivation environment was really incomparable. The difference was too great. After those sovereigns came to the Yuan continent, their cultivation would probably advance by leaps and bounds. In the blink of an eye, half a day had passed before Lu Ming ended his cultivation. It's so cool. It's so cool to cultivate here. Lu Ming's face was full of amazement. He realized that half a day of cultivation was equivalent to a month of cultivation in the Divine Wilderness continent. His primal chaos domain had become a little more mature, and it was getting closer and closer to full maturity. Wow, Lu Ming, you've arrived in Yuan continent. Haha, you've finally left that poor and remote place. Lu Ming heard a voice. It was Dandan. He did not know when she had climbed onto Lu Ming's shoulder. She sucked in the air with her mouth and large amounts of original energy were sucked into Dandan's mouth. Dandan, you're awake. Lu Ming was overjoyed. Since the last battle, Dandan had been in a coma for almost a month. Nonsense. You've been unconscious for so long and you're still not awake. Do you think I'm dead? Dandan cast a glance at Lu Ming and then said with a long face, Lu Ming, we've suffered heavy losses this time. Although you've woken up, you're far from fully recovered. Hurry up and take out all your spiritual herbs. Having said that, his eyes were fixed on Lu Ming. Alright, let's enter the mountain and river diagram. Lu Ming said and entered the mountain and river diagram with Dandan. In a valley, Bubbles was still curled up and sleeping soundly. There was a transparent bubble at the tip of his nose that was sometimes big and sometimes small. Lu Ming's heart ached. In the previous battle, this little guy seemed to have suffered a lot of damage. Then, Lu Ming waved his hand and the valley was covered with spiritual herbs. All kinds of spirit herbs of different grades filled the valley. In that battle, hundreds of sovereigns were killed. The spirit herbs in the storage rings were terrifying. Lu Ming took them all out and let Dandan and Bubbles eat to their heart's content. Ha ha ha, Lu Ming, you're very generous this time. Dandan's eyes lit up, and she immediately rushed into the pile of spirit herbs, grabbed a handful of spirit herbs, and stuffed them into her mouth. Chirping. As if sensing the aura of the spiritual herbs, Pow Pow woke up and looked at Lu Ming in a daze. Then, she looked at the pile of spiritual herbs in a daze. Her two gem-like eyes glowed brightly and she also pounced into the pile of spiritual herbs, taking big bites. However, there were plenty of spirit herbs here, so the two of them ate as much as they could. Soon, their bellies bulged, and they burped as they lay there, their mouths filled with the fragrance of herbs. The mountain and river diagram is a space of its own, but the environment seems to be the same as that of the Divine Wilderness continent. I should absorb some of the original chi to improve the environment here. Lu Ming pondered. Within the mountain and river diagram, there were mountains, rivers, flowers, and trees. After that, Lu Ming caught more demonic beasts and planted many spiritual herbs in the mountains. However, the environment here was similar to the divine wilderness continent. Be it the spiritual herbs or the demonic beasts, their growth was slow. If the environment was the same as the Yuan continent, the spiritual herbs would definitely grow faster in the mountain and river diagram. With a single thought, Lu Ming exited the mountain and river diagram and reappeared in the ice cave. Then, the mountain and river diagram appeared in Lu Ming's hands. He opened it and muttered, "Absorb." And NBSP hoo hoo. Suddenly, the mountain and river diagram emitted a powerful suction force, absorbing the original qi between heaven and earth. The original qi between heaven and earth formed a funnel-like shape and madly gathered toward the mountain and river diagram. At this moment, everyone in this Yaoji valley was alarmed. One by one, the geniuses who had been cultivating were awakened. What's going on? Why is the origin qi of heaven and earth gathering in one direction? Who's cultivating? Impossible. Even an emperor couldn't cause such a huge commotion while cultivating. Who is it? Sounds rang out one after another. Some people walked out of the ice cave and sensed carefully. Although they knew which ice cave it was happening, they didn't know who it was. However, this effect was only limited to this side valley. After all, the original qi here was too rich, and this side valley was very vast. This. The path understanding ancient tree. Lu Ming's eyes suddenly lit up. Originally, the mountain and river diagram didn't cause such a big commotion when it absorbed the original qi of heaven and earth, mainly because of the path understanding ancient tree. The path understanding ancient tree had 3 crisp leaves. Its branches were very thin, not even as thin as a pinky finger. In the divine wilderness, the growth of the path understanding ancient tree was too slow. But now, the path understanding ancient tree glowed and shimmered. A mysterious aura lingered on it, continuously absorbing the origin qi from the outside world. At the same time, Lu Ming sensed that the path understanding ancient tree seemed to be resonating with the great Tao between heaven and earth. Wisps of great Tao aura emanated from the path understanding ancient tree. In just a moment, Lu Ming could feel that the branches of the path understanding ancient tree had grown thicker and the leaves had become greener. The 4th leaf. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes widened. He discovered that the 4th leaf had also grown. It seems like the path understanding ancient tree has a chance of fully growing in the Yuan continent. In the divine wilderness continent, it's already not bad if it can survive. Lu Ming was overjoyed. If the path understanding ancient tree could fully grow, it would be of great help to him. Lu Ming took out a lot of spiritual liquid and watered the root of the ancient path understanding tree. It seems that I need to get more spiritual herbs in the future and let the path understanding ancient tree grow as soon as possible. Lu Ming pondered in his heart. Chapter 1396, 1396 Chapter 1396, so many experts just like that, the mountain and river diagram and the path understanding ancient tree continued to absorb the original qi for 3 days and 3 nights before they calmed down. The mountain and river diagram was already filled with rich original qi. Lu Ming then kept the mountain and river diagram. The days that followed were very peaceful. Lu Ming cultivated and practiced martial arts every day to adapt to the environment. Half a month later, Lu Ming had completely adapted to the Yuan continent's environment. At this time, Lu Ming opened the door of the ice cave and went out for some fresh air. "Brother Lu!" A delicate cry rang out. Lu Ming looked in the direction of the voice and saw Qiu Yingying and Qiu Hao. "Young lady Qiu, brother Qiu, what a coincidence." Lu Ming smiled. "Brother Lu, how are you adapting to this?" Qiu Hao waved his fan and smiled. To be honest, Qiu Hao was very handsome. He was wearing a long robe and waving a folding fan, like an elegant young master. "I've already completely adapted to it," Lu Ming said with a smile. "That's great. We're going to the market. Brother Lu, do you want to come with us?" Qiu Yingying said. "A market? Good. Lu Ming agreed immediately. He was also very curious. The environment of the Yuan continent was excellent. It would definitely produce countless natural treasures that the divine wilderness continent could not compare to. Lu Ming wanted to see it. If there were any suitable ones, he wanted to buy some. The three of them walked out of the side valley together, and then followed the huge glacier valley into the depths of the valley. This canyon was only the outer valley. Those who lived here were basically reserved disciples and some odd job workers. The real Dragon God Valley was located in the depths of the valley, in the vast snow mountains. The market was located deep in the canyon. Many official disciples of the Dragon God Valley frequented the market, so there were good things there. Soon, Lu Ming and the rest arrived at the market. The city square took up a huge area. There were stalls on both sides of the street. The layout was similar to that of the divine wilderness continent. In the market, people came and went. So many experts. Lu Ming released his spiritual senses and scanned the area. His heart trembled. 5 out of 10 people walking on the streets were all emperors. Some of them were still very young, looking like they were in their 20s. The most shocking thing was that Lu Ming saw a few 12 or 13-year-old teenagers. They still had a childish look on their faces and were also emperor warriors. Lu Ming was dumbfounded. Seeing Lu Ming's expression, Qiu Yingying smiled and said, "Brother Lu, when we first arrived, we were also shocked. However, it's also because the cultivation environment in Yuan continent is too good. It's much easier to break through to the emperor realm than in the other continents." Indeed. Lu Ming heaved a long sigh of relief. In the divine wilderness continent, martial emperors were the absolute overlords. They dominated and ruled over an area. However, in the Yuan continent, in Dragon God Valley, they were actually everywhere. One could only imagine how many emperors there were in the entire Yuan continent. They were not worth much. It was no wonder that the sovereigns of the divine wilderness continent wanted to come to the Yuan continent but did not dare to. They wanted to join the big sects of the Yuan continent so that they could be protected. That was because in the Yuan continent, emperors were nothing. There were a lot of them. Without a backer, it was extremely dangerous to cultivate outside. One could die if they were not careful. In Dragon God Valley, LV1 to LV3 martial emperors are worthless and have no status. They are just like servants. Only those above LV4 martial emperor have some status. Those above LV7 martial emperor are the backbone of Dragon God Valley and can be assigned some duties. Qiu Yingying explained in a low voice, and then added, "Of course, young geniuses don't count." Lu Ming nodded. Of course, he understood that young geniuses had different statuses no matter where they were. Because being young meant infinite possibilities. This is the elixir of life, and it's a top-grade elixir of life. Suddenly, Lu Ming saw the elixir of life at a stall. Top-grade water of life. In the divine wilderness continent, Lu Ming had seen the elixir of life before. However, he had never heard of a supreme-grade elixir of life. This was because there was no such thing in the divine wilderness continent or even the divine ruins continent. It was almost extinct. Supreme-grade elixir of life was extremely useful to even emperors, as it could heal their injuries. As expected of Yuanlu. The moment he arrived, he saw such a precious spiritual medicine. Lu Ming's clone was severely injured. This premium elixir of life was extremely important to his clone. Lu Ming had to get it. "Senior, how much is this bottle of elixir of life?" Lu Ming cupped his fists and said to the stall owner. The stall owner was an old man with white hair. 100,000 raw stones. The old man raised a finger. 100,000 raw gemstones? Lu Ming was stunned. It was not because it was too expensive, but because it was too cheap. A bottle of top-grade elixir of life was a legendary treasure in the Divine Ruins Continent group, but it only cost 100,000 raw gemstones. Lu Ming was in disbelief. He asked again, Senior, only 100,000 raw stones? Of course, not a single one more, not a single one more. The old man said. All right, I'll buy it. Lu Ming took out a storage ring. There were 100,000 raw stones inside. The old man took it and scanned it with his spiritual senses. His expression changed and he threw the storage ring back to Lu Ming. Junior, are you playing with this old man? Lu Ming's face was full of question marks. Senior, please don't take offense. Brother Lu just came from the outer continent, so there are some rules that he doesn't understand. Qiao Ying quickly tried to smooth things over. Oh. So you're the new reserve disciple from the outer continent. The old man's expression softened. Brother Lu, the raw stone this senior is talking about is a medium-grade raw stone. Qiao Ying quickly sent a voice transmission to Lu Ming. It's actually a mid-grade raw stone? Yes, the raw stones commonly used in the Yuan continent are mid-grade raw stones. Generally speaking, the number of raw stones referred to mid-grade raw stones. Low-grade raw stones are almost useless in the Yuan continent. They are considered useless stones. Only in special circumstances will they be used. Qiao Ying explained. I see. Lu Ming smiled. The cultivation environment in the Yuan continent was too good. Cultivating at will was equivalent to using low-grade raw gemstones. Therefore, low-grade raw gemstones were useless. Only mid-grade raw stones were mainstream. One mid-grade raw stone was equivalent to 10,000 low-grade raw stones. 100,000 medium-grade raw stones were equivalent to 1 billion low-grade raw stones. This price was reasonable. However, the problem was that Lu Ming did not have any mid-grade raw stones. He had killed so many emperors, and there were at least tens of billions of low-grade raw stones in his storage ring. However, in the Yuan continent, low-grade raw stones were useless. What a waste! Lu Ming wailed in his heart. His heart ached. There were so many raw gemstones here, but they were actually useless and had become useless. Now, Lu Ming was equivalent to a pauper with nothing to his name. Lu Ming's face turned green. Seeing Lu Ming's reaction, Qiao Ying and Qiao Hao smiled bitterly. They were the same when they first arrived. Little fellow, the low-grade raw stones you brought with you are useless now, right? If you have any treasures on you, you can use them to exchange for it. The old man laughed, but he didn't mean to laugh. He was used to this kind of thing. Chapter 1397, 1397 The combat strength of the Emperor of Yuanlu, a treasure? Lu Ming pondered. He had given all the spiritual herbs he had to Dandan and Bubbles. However, even if he took them out, they would not be worth much. Naturally, Lu Ming would not take out items that were too precious, such as the Thunder Cauldron and the Air-Frozen Bead. Only an Emperor's spiritual weapon could be used. Senior, may I know how many mid-grade raw stones an Emperor weapon is worth? Lu Ming took out a large saber and asked. On the Divine Ruins continent, Lu Ming had killed so many emperors and obtained nearly 20 Emperor's spiritual weapons. An Emperor's spiritual weapon is not bad. It's worth 1,000,000 raw gemstones. The old man's eyes lit up. 1,000,000 raw gemstones? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The value of an Emperor's spiritual weapon had greatly exceeded his expectations. It was higher than he had imagined. Brother Lu, usually, only those at the 7th level of the martial Emperor realm and above can unleash the full power of an Emperor weapon. Only a saint can make one. Although there are many of them in the Yuan continent, there are too many high-level martial emperors. The demand is too high, so the value of an Emperor weapon has always been very high. Qiao Ying explained to Lu Ming. Lu Ming had a sudden realization. Indeed, there were a lot of Emperor's spiritual weapons in the Yuan continent. However, there were even more high-level emperors. The demand for them exceeded the supply, so their value was naturally high. For example, in the small continents outside of the Yuan continent, like the Divine Wilderness continent, the emperor's spiritual weapon was usually left behind by saints or high-level emperors who went to those places. It was basically impossible for anyone to make it. Many of them were passed down from the Yuan continent. For example, Lu Ming had obtained the emperor's spirit tower in the secret realm of the Saint Mansion. It was also brought from the Yuan continent by the Tianxian saint. That was how the Divine Ruins Continent group's emperor's spiritual weapons usually came about. They had only accumulated a few after countless years. Little brother, do you want to sell this emperor's spiritual weapon? If you want to sell it, this old man will buy it. The old man said. I'm selling it. Senior, I still have another one. Then, Lu Ming took out an iron rod-like emperor spiritual weapon. The elder and the Chiu siblings were surprised. They did not expect Lu Ming to have so many king's spiritual weapons. Alright, I'll buy it. Here are 1.9 million raw gemstones and this bottle of supreme-grade life potion. The elder passed Lu Ming a storage ring and the bottle of life potion. Lu Ming took it and scanned it with his spiritual senses. He found a pile of raw gemstones in the storage ring. Each piece was filled with rich origin qi, which was many times purer and richer than a low-grade raw stone. This was a mid-grade raw stone. Using a mid-grade raw stone to cultivate would naturally be many times faster than using a low-grade raw stone. Lu Ming kept it and continued to wander around with Chiu Ying and Chiu Hao. On the way, Lu Ming realized that there were too many treasures here. All the spirit herbs were level 9. Level 8 spirit herbs were rare. There were also all sorts of blacksmithing materials, spiritual liquid, and so on, all of which were of very high grade. Along the way, Lu Ming bought quite a number of spiritual herbs. Very soon, the 1.9 million medium-grade raw stones were almost depleted. Lu Ming's heart ached. These were 2 emperor's spiritual weapons. However, the spiritual liquid and spiritual medicine that he had bought were all very useful. The spiritual liquid sped up the growth of the path understanding ancient tree, while the spiritual medicine sped up Dandan and Bubble's recovery. After coming to Yuan continent, he realized that he had become a pauper. Although he still had many emperor's spiritual weapons, if he continued to use them, he would soon run out. In the meantime, the Chiu siblings also bought some things. Get lost. I have my eyes on this green-blue fruit. Suddenly, a loud roar could be heard. Nonsense, what do you mean you like it? I said I like it. If you don't have money, then get lost. Another voice rang out. Who do you think you are? You told me to get lost. If you have the ability, let's fight on the fighting stage. The voice from before rang out. A battle it is. The voice behind them was heard. Then, they saw some people flying in one direction. There's a battle between sovereigns. Brother Lu, let's go to the battle platform and take a look. Chiu Ying said. Alright, I'd like to experience it too. Lu Ming revealed a curious look. Then, the 3 of them followed the crowd and walked towards the fighting ring. In the dueling platform, disciples of the Dragon God Valley would usually settle their disputes there. Boom! Boom! Lu Ming and the rest had just arrived when they heard a violent roar. On a huge fighting ring, 2 figures were constantly clashing. The 2 burly men in their 30s kept punching each other, causing violent rumbles between heaven and earth. He's in the 3rd level of the martial royal realm, but his combat strength is so strong. Lu Ming's pupils constricted. He realized that the cultivation of the 2 opponents was at the early stage of the 3rd level martial royal realm. However, the combat strength they displayed was beyond Lu Ming's imagination. He felt that the 4th level martial emperors in the Divine Ruins Continent group were not their match. The combat power that the 2 of them had displayed had completely exceeded the combat power of the 4th level martial emperors in the Divine Ruins Continent group. Lu Ming was extremely shocked. Brother Lu, do you feel that these two people's combat strength is very strong? Qiu Ying said. Indeed, he is much stronger than the emperor of my continent. Lu Ming nodded. Yes, we were also very surprised when we first arrived. However, this is the combat power of an ordinary sovereign in the Yuan continent. Qiu Ying explained, in the Yuan continent, no matter if it's martial arts or the Tao of inscription, they have all been developed to the extreme. Compared to the other continents, they are much stronger. All kinds of martial techniques, bloodlines, concepts, domains, and spiritual bodies have been developed to the extreme. Therefore, the cultivators here are all very strong, far stronger than those in other continents. Emperors, unless they're servants with low status, have all cultivated domain martial techniques. Their combat strength is amazing. Yuan continent. It's indeed Yuan continent. Lu Ming could not help but clench his fists. The cultivation civilization of the origin continent had already developed to the extreme, and it was far from what the continent of the divine ruins could compare to. It could be said that in the origin continent, a decent cultivator was a genius who could challenge those of a higher level in the continent of the divine ruins. Lu Ming was reminded of the people Di Xian had brought with him. Those people were not very strong. Perhaps, in the Di family, the status of those people was just like that of servants, which explained why their combat strength was not particularly high. Lu Ming's thoughts were in a whirl and he felt immense pressure. There were too many experts here, and the streets were filled with emperors. Saints were the supreme experts. Moreover, the emperors here all had extraordinary combat strength. In the Divine Ruins Continent group, Lu Ming could fight with a peak LV3 Martial Royal Realm expert and even overpower the other party without using the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal and without the help of his second body. However, in this place, without using the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal and without the help of his clone, Lu Ming could only fight with an early-stage second-level Martial Emperor. Lu Ming estimated that after he used the Chaos Sky-Turning Seal, he could probably fight with a peak LV2 Martial Royal Realm expert. Chapter 1398, 1398 The Secret Realm of the Emperor. The difference was too great. One should know that in the Divine Ruins Continent group, Lu Ming's Chaos Sky-Turning Seal could injure a 4th-level Martial Emperor. In this place, Lu Ming was not even a match for the two brawny men at the early stage of the 3rd-level Martial Emperor realm, let alone the ones at the 4th-level Martial Emperor realm. Moreover, this was only an ordinary Martial Emperor. What if he encountered a heaven's favorite? How strong would he be? Looks like I was really looking at the sky from the bottom of a well when I was trapped in a corner of the Divine Ruins Continent cluster in the past. Lu Ming clenched his fists tightly. While he felt the immense pressure, he was also filled with anticipation. His blood was boiling with excitement. The Yuan continent was the real stage. It was colorful and far from what the continents of the Divine Ruins could compare to. On the fighting ring, the two of them fought fiercely for hundreds of moves. In the end, both of them were injured and left the place. However, after the two of them left, another two went up to fight. After that, Lu Ming watched 5 battles in total, all of which were battles between kings. As expected, most of the emperors here had a much stronger combat strength than the emperors of the Divine Ruins Continent group. Lu Ming more or less had some idea. After that, Lu Ming, Qiu Ying and the rest returned to their residence. After returning to his residence, the first thing Lu Ming did was pour the life potion on his clone. As expected, the clone glowed and its recovery speed greatly increased. Then, Lu Ming continued to cultivate. In the Yuan continent, the cultivation of those below the Martial Emperor realm was too low. Only by breaking through to the Emperor realm as soon as possible would he be able to gain a firm foothold. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed since Lu Ming came to Dragon God Valley. During this period, Lu Ming would occasionally go out and buy some books to read. They were all about the Yuan continent. Since he was new, he naturally had to understand the world he was in. On this day, the sound of drums suddenly rang out from outside. It was the sound of a summoning drum. Someone was summoning them. Lu Ming ended his cultivation and went out of the cave abode. He saw Long Yuanchuan standing in the valley. Buzz! Buzz! And NBSP whoosh! Young men flew out of the ice caves and stood in the valley. There were more than 1,000 of them. Lu Ming discovered that some of the youths who came with him were progressing very quickly. Some of them were originally at the 8th level of the spiritual god realm, but now they had broken through and reached the 9th level of the spiritual god realm, or even the perfected spiritual god realm. These people were the top geniuses of their respective continents, and their talents were definitely not weak. After coming here, they were naturally like fish in water, and their cultivation progress soared. Alright, you newcomers have been here for a month and have gotten used to it. Now, there are 3 months left before your assessment. Now, I'll tell you the details of your assessment mission in 3 months. In 3 months, your assessment mission is to explore a secret realm. Long Yuanchuan said. Explore a secret realm? Lu Ming and the rest were stunned. Yes, only those who come out of the secret realm alive can be considered to have passed the test and become an official disciple of Dragon God Valley. Long Yuanchuan said. Many people's expressions changed. It seemed that this secret realm was quite dangerous. As if he could see through everyone's thoughts, Long Yuanchuan smiled and said, although this secret realm is dangerous, let me tell you, it's also a supreme opportunity. Many martial royal realm experts and even saints have tried to enter but failed. Because this mystical realm. It's the great emperor's secret realm. When he said the last sentence, Long Yuanchuan deliberately emphasized it. What? The great emperor's secret realm? The great emperor? Everyone, including Lu Ming, was stunned. They could not help but widen their eyes. The great emperor's secret realm? Could it be a secret realm left behind by the great emperor? The great emperor was a peak expert of the primordial realm. He dominated the world and ruled the firmament. What kind of treasures would there be in a secret realm left behind by such a person? Everyone's eyes were burning. Even saints were unreachable existences to them, let alone a great emperor who was above saints. This is the first time that this great emperor's secret realm has been discovered. After investigation, only those below the emperor realm can enter. Those above the emperor realm can't enter. Even saints can't enter. Therefore, you must make good use of this time to raise your cultivation to the supreme realm. According to the saints' speculation, martial emperors and above are not allowed to enter the great emperor's secret realm, but it will be no problem for you to break through after entering. Therefore, if some supreme martial artists enter the great emperor's secret realm to break through to the martial royal realm, they will be able to gain the upper hand and obtain treasures. Also, this time, all of the top powers of the Azure continent will be sending people in. This is a dangerous place, so in the next 3 months, you guys should try your best to increase your strength. Opportunities are things that you have to grasp on your own. Long Yuanchuan continued to explain. I see. After hearing this information, some of the doubts in Lu Ming's heart were finally answered. Lu Ming finally knew why the Dragon God Valley, the deity sect, and other sects would cross endless distances to the continent of the divine ruins to select disciples. It was all because of the great emperor's secret realm. In every continent, they recruited heaven's favorites to enter the emperor's secret realm. The Yuan continent was divided into many continents. The Azure region was a large region in the southern part of the continent. The Dragon God Valley was one of the most powerful forces in the Azure region. The Azure continent was home to countless factions of varying sizes. However, there were a total of 13 factions that stood at the very top of the continent. These 13 powers were the overlords of the Azure continent. Dragon God Valley was one of the 13 forces. Other than that, the Tianqian sect, the Tianyu demonic sect, the Zhouxiao sword sect, and even the heavenly king Hall, which had caused chaos in the divine wilderness mainland because of a heavenly king token, were all part of the 13 great powers. This time, all the major forces would send people into the great emperor's secret realm. Therefore, these major forces all sent people to the small continents overseas to recruit disciples. The Di clan, if they're not in the Azure continent, where are they? Lu Ming thought to himself. The Yuan continent was too vast and the Azure continent was only a small part of it. The books that Lu Ming bought mostly introduced the Azure continent. He was not too sure about anything else outside of the Azure continent. After the announcement, Long Yuanchuan left the place. However, these young men couldn't calm down. After that, they all returned to their cave abodes and began cultivating in seclusion. It was obvious that one could break through to the Emperor realm after entering the Great Emperor's secret realm. Therefore, if they raised their cultivation to the limit of the Supreme Being realm and broke through to the Emperor realm after entering the Great Emperor's secret realm, they would have an absolute advantage. Lu Ming began to focus more on the embryonic form of the Chaos realm. Now, the primal chaos domain was getting closer and closer to its limit. As long as the primal chaos domain was cultivated to its limit, he could begin to break through to the Emperor realm. In the blink of an eye, another 3 days passed. Thump! 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 On this day, there was a sudden violent boom outside. It was the sound of drums. The summoning drum sounded again. However, didn't they just gather 3 days ago and announce the matter of the Great Emperor's secret realm? Why are they gathering again? Lu Ming walked out of the cave abode with doubts in his mind. 3 young men stood outside the cave. The 3 young men had a faint sense of pride on their faces. Chapter 1399 Chapter 1399 Local Genius. Everyone gathered in the valley and looked at the 3 young men in surprise. Just now, it was these 3 young men who had sounded the drum. Why did they sound the drum and gather everyone? Everyone's here. One of the young men looked at the crowd and said indifferently, no one made a sound. All right, I believe you've heard about the news of entering the Great Emperor's secret realm in 3 months. The young man continued, the corners of his mouth rising with cold arrogance. Let me tell you, this is the good fortune that you have accumulated over several lifetimes. If it weren't for this reason, you would never have been able to join Dragon God Valley in your lifetime, let alone enter the Great Emperor's secret realm. So, you must seize the opportunity, understand? The young man's voice reverberated throughout the valley, but everyone could hear the disdain in his voice. It was like a prince looking down at a group of beggars. Many people frowned but did not say anything. From their tone, these people should be locals and not from a continent outside of Yuan continent. Since he was from the Yuan continent, no one knew if he was related to the higher-ups of Dragon God Valley. Naturally, no one refuted the young man. All right, let's get to the point. The man in front of you is the peerless genius of Dragon God Valley, young Master Yin Feng. Why don't you pay your respects to him? The young man pointed to a young man in the middle. Among the 3 young men, the leader was the one in the middle. He looked to be in his early 20s and was dressed in silver. He had a cold and arrogant expression as he looked at Lu Ming and the others with a faint disdain. Greetings, young Master Yin Feng. There were a few people who cupped their fists. What kind of attitude is this? Young Master Yin Feng is also going to enter the Great Emperor's secret realm this time. It'll give you a chance to join him and become his subordinates. You'll enter the Great Emperor's secret realm and listen to his orders. In the future, when you're in the Dragon God Valley, young Master Yin Feng will naturally take care of you. The young man spoke, finally revealing their true purpose. They actually wanted Lu Ming and the rest to join young Master Yin Feng and become his subordinates. Lu Ming sneered. The Great Emperor's secret realm was a place of great fortune. Naturally, it would not only be for outsiders like them. The local talents of the major sects would definitely enter as well. Yin Feng and the other two seemed to be at the supreme level, so they would definitely enter. They had a good idea. Now, they would gather Lu Ming and the others in their hands. When they entered the Great Emperor's secret realm, they would use them to gain benefits for themselves. This was something that everyone present could figure out with just a little thought. I'm sorry, I'm used to being a loner. I don't have any thoughts of becoming someone else's subordinate. Goodbye. A bald young man said coldly and was about to return to his cave. Buzz. With a flash, the young man who had spoken appeared in front of the bald young man. You want to refuse? The local youth said coldly. I don't have the habit of being someone else's dog. The bald young man sneered. He was implying that the other party was just a dog of Yin Feng. You're looking for death. The local youth's face turned completely dark, and a cold killing intent spread out. It's already a blessing that you've cultivated for 8 lifetimes for a lowly ant from a savage island to be able to join Dragon God Valley. You don't know how to bow your head in gratitude, and you dare to be arrogant in front of me, Yin Feizhang. It seems that you'll forget who you are if I don't teach you a lesson. The native young man was called Silver Flying Badge, and he emitted a powerful aura. I'm not afraid of you. The bald youth's aura also bloomed. He was also at the Supreme Being level. These young men were all at the peak of their respective continents. They were invincible among their peers and looked down on others. All of them were proud and arrogant, so how could they be willing to become someone else's subordinate? At the same time, Silver Flying Badge was also a supreme martial artist. Why would he be afraid of a fight at the same level? Hee hee, then I'll let you know how weak you, the lowly trash of a savage island, are. Come on, I'll let you have 3 moves. Silver Flying Badge said coldly. There's no need for you to let me win. I'll defeat you in 10 moves. The bald youth shouted. He was also an extremely proud person. Buzz. The bald youth's body emitted a yellow halo, which was his domain. The embryonic form of the domain enveloped the Silver Flying Badge. A small trick. Since you don't know your own strength, I'll fulfill your wish. The Silver Flying Badge stepped forward, and a domain also appeared on his body. The 2 domains met in the air. However, an unexpected scene occurred. The moment the 2 of them touched each other, the bald youth's domain collapsed. The bald youth's expression changed greatly, and he retreated a few steps. Buzz. At this moment, the Silver Flying Badge moved. In an instant, it appeared in front of the bald young man and slapped at him. The bald young man's face was solemn. He exhaled and also struck out with his palm. Bang! When the 2 palms met, the bald young man's expression changed drastically. His body was knocked back continuously, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. You! How could that be? The bald young man looked at Yin Feizhang in disbelief. They were both Shizuan realm experts, yet he couldn't even withstand a single strike from the other party. How was this possible? His self-confidence had taken a heavy blow. The other young men were all shocked. It wasn't that the bald youth wasn't strong, but that the Silver Flying Badge was too strong. Domain martial technique. Lu Ming spat out a few words. He possessed a portion of the 9 dragons' memories, so he was naturally very knowledgeable. With a single glance, he could tell that the Silver Flying Badge was using a domain-level martial technique. A domain martial technique could unleash the power of a domain to the extreme. Furthermore, domain martial arts techniques were very precious. Even in the major sects of the Yuanlu, not everyone could practice them. Martial arts techniques of creation existed in some small continents. However, it was impossible for those small continents to have domain martial techniques. Just now, the Silver Flying Badge had used a combat domain martial technique to defeat the bald youth in 1 move. Now do you know how trashy you are? Did he really think that he was an expert? Let me tell you, the reason why Dragon God Valley gathered you here is not because of your strength, but because your cultivation is too weak. In Dragon God Valley, there are many heaven's favorites who are already at the martial emperor realm. They cannot enter the great emperor's secret realm. There are too few people below the martial emperor realm. That's why I've come to your remote village to gather you. Do you understand? Silver Flying Badge said coldly. Many people were shocked. The Dragon God Valley accepted them as disciples and called them here, not because of their strength or talent, but because there were not many weak talents in the Dragon God Valley. This was a great irony for the top heaven's favorites from the various continents. Especially the bald youth, whose face was ashen. If any of you don't agree, I don't mind crippling him and throwing him out. After all, you're not the only disciples recruited from overseas this time. It doesn't matter if I cripple a few. Silver Flying Badge's voice was getting colder and colder, which made many people's faces turn ugly. Chapter 1400 Blood Oath Contract. The crowd's expressions made Yin Feeshang's cold and arrogant expression even more arrogant. He scanned the crowd and spoke again. Who else would like to experience it? Come out. I will let you know how useless you are. Everyone looked at each other. For a moment, no one stepped out. The Silver Flying Badge's combat strength was too strong. No one was confident. I'll try. After a while, a young man in a yellow robe stepped out. Good, you have guts. Then I'll teach you a good lesson. Yin Feishang looked at the yellow-robed young man with a sharp and cold light. The crowd retreated, leaving a large open space. The Silver Flying Badge and the yellow-robed youth stood opposite each other. Roar! The yellow-robed young man didn't hold back at all. A dragon's roar resounded throughout the valley, and a yellow true dragon appeared above his head. The 9 golden chakra glittered. This was the bloodline of the yellow-robed young man. The yellow-robed youth immediately used bloodline fusion. Buzz! Then, a mountain peak appeared above the yellow true dragon's head, exuding a powerful pressure. An emperor's spiritual weapon. So it's an emperor's spiritual weapon. You think it's useful just because you have one? You're really naive. Silver Flying Badge sneered. Buzz! Then, with a flash of his body, his entire body was filled with a green radiance as he pounced toward the khaki-colored true dragon. Roar! The yellow dragon roared and pounced at the Silver Flying Badge with its claws. At the same time, the mountain expanded rapidly and pressed down on the Silver Flying Badge. Buzz! Buzz! And NBSP whoosh! Silver Flying Badge's figure flickered and suddenly multiplied into 18 figures. Each figure waved its hand and a green chain flew toward the yellow dragon. The 18 chains were extremely fast. They instantly wrapped around the body of the yellow true dragon and wrapped around it. Roar! The yellow dragon struggled with all its might, but the green chains were too strong to break free. Suppress! The khaki-colored true dragon roared, and the emperor's spiritual weapon in the shape of a mountain peak pressed down on the other party. Heavenly Wind Divine Art. Silver Flying Badge sneered. A green domain spread out and then turned into a huge palm print, hitting the mountain. Thump! With a huge explosion, the green palm print was destroyed, but the mountain also flew back. The Emperor's spiritual weapon was sent flying by the Silver Flying Badge. What a powerful domain martial technique! Lu Ming could see clearly from the crowd that Silver Flying Badge had been performing the domain martial art technique from the beginning to the end. This was a domain martial skill that could change in thousands of ways. It pushed the power of the Silver Flying Badge's wind domain to the extreme. It was very mysterious and its power was shocking. The yellow-robed youth's bloodline fusion and his emperor's spiritual weapon would definitely be powerful. On the continent of the Divine Ruins, the yellow-robed young man was definitely able to fight against an emperor, and he was even slightly stronger than an ordinary first-level martial emperor. However, he was still no match for Yin Feishang, which showed how strong Yin Feishang's combat strength was. Then, with a flash, the silver flying badge appeared on top of the yellow true dragon's head and slapped it with its palm. Roar! The yellow dragon let out a wail and then exploded, revealing the yellow-robed young man's body. Silver flying badge stomped on the face of the young man in yellow robe, directly pushing him to the ground, blasting a big hole. Humph, you want to fight me with this bit of combat power? You're simply courting death. You're courting death. Silver flying badge shouted coldly. He suddenly exerted more force on the young man's face. The young man screamed and spat out a mouthful of blood. Many people looked indignant. On the side, Yin Feng and another young man looked on coldly as if they were watching Yin Feizhang stomping on a little chicken. Is there anyone else who wants to challenge this young master? Just step forward. Silver flying badge said loudly. No one spoke. Since no one says anything, I'll take it that you've all tacitly agreed to join young Master Yin Feng. Alright, then sign the blood oath contract now. A scroll appeared in Silver Flying Badge's hand. When he unfurled it, it was covered in inscriptions. What? You still want us to sign a blood oath contract? No, we can't sign a blood oath contract. If we do, we'll really become your slaves and be under your control. Instantly, the scene burst into an uproar, and many people shouted. The blood oath contract was unique to the Yuan continent. Once signed, it was the same as a blood oath that could not be violated. In this case, wouldn't they have to listen to Yin Feng's control for the rest of their lives? How could these proud and ambitious heaven's favorites from the various continents accept this? What's with the noise? I'm telling you, you have to sign it today even if you don't want to. Moreover, this blood oath isn't for a lifetime. It's only limited to the exploration stage of the secret realm, understand? Silver Flying Badge said, but everyone was still resentful. No one would sign. What a bunch of fucking idiots. Silver Flying Badge started to lose his patience and scolded, do you think you are Heaven's Pride experts? Let me tell you, in the Yuan continent, you are nothing. You are just a bunch of trash. If you don't submit to young Master Yin Feng, I guarantee that you will not have a good life in the future. Danger lurks in every corner of the Yuan continent. Ferocious beasts are everywhere. I guarantee that you won't even know how you died. If young Master Yin Feng protects you, you will have a good cultivation environment. This was already a blatant threat. However, the power of his words was indeed strong. It made many young men hesitate. That's right. There were many experts in the Yuan continent. While there were opportunities, there was also a high level of danger. They couldn't stay in Dragon God Valley to cultivate their entire lives. They had to go out and temper themselves. If that happened, it would be really dangerous if Yin Feng and the others did anything. Moreover, in a large sect like Dragon God Valley, having a backer was indeed much better than cultivating alone. Some of the young men were tempted. Alright, I'll sign it. I'll sign it too. Finally, someone spoke up and agreed to sign the blood oath contract. Only then did a smile appear on Yin Feizhang's face. This is more like it. Come up and sign. More than a dozen young men stepped forward and signed their names on the blood oath contract with their own blood. The yellow-robed young man under Yin Feizhang's feet also signed the contract obediently. What about you guys? With the blood oath contract in hand, Yin Feizhang walked to the young women and looked at them coldly. The young women's expressions kept changing. In the end, they gritted their teeth and signed the contract. You guys? Then, Silver Flying Badge held the contract and looked at the others. They had no choice but to lower their heads. They gritted their teeth and signed the contract. Very quickly, about 50 people had signed the blood oath contract. We won't sign it. Suddenly, a deep voice rang out. Everyone looked over and found that the person who spoke was a simple and honest young man. Beside him, there were two people who looked exactly the same as this young man. The triplets. Chapter 1401, 1401 Another innate spirit body, you guys aren't signing? The smile on the silver flying badge's face disappeared and was replaced by a stern look. That's right, we won't sign it. We three Yuan brothers will never be manipulated by others. One of the three brothers said. He. It seems that if I don't cripple a few people today, you'll really think that I won't dare to be ruthless. Yin Feizhang sneered. After saying that, Silver Flying Badge emitted a green light and a wisp of cold killing intent. The three brothers gathered together and looked at the Silver Flying Badge cautiously. Buzz! Silver Flying Badge made his move. A blue palm print was sent toward one of their dantian. Boom! The triplets shouted at the same time. The auras on their bodies actually connected with each other. Their auras merged seamlessly and their auras rose sharply. One of them threw out a punch and it collided with the palm of the Silver Flying Badge. With a loud explosion, Silver Flying Badge's body trembled and he was sent flying backward. The triplets also took a few steps back at the same time. You have some skills. Yin Feizhang's face turned cold. He didn't expect that the triplets' auras would be able to combine and resist his domain martial skill. Kill! Silver Flying Badge shouted and attacked the triplets again. However, the triplets stood together and exchanged a few moves with Silver Flying Badge, but the result was the same. They were evenly matched, and the Silver Flying Badge could not defeat the triplets at all. Many people's eyes lit up. The Heaven's Pride experts of the Yuan continent were powerful and had cultivated domain martial arts techniques. However, there were too many of them in the continents outside of the Yuan continent. There would always be some outrageous Heaven's favorites who could compete with the local Heaven's favorites. As long as they could resist the other party, they could skip the blood oath. After more than 10 moves, Silver Flying Badge still couldn't take down the triplets. His face turned completely cold. Buzz! A silver hook appeared in Silver Flying Badge's hand. The silver hook was covered with spikes and looked extremely dangerous. An Emperor's spiritual weapon. Silver Flying Badge finally used his Emperor's spiritual weapon. The triplets' expressions changed slightly. A shield appeared in their hands at the same time. 3 shields, 3 identical ones, and all of them were King's spiritual weapons. Buzz! Buzz! The silver hook in Yin Feizhang's hand swept toward the triplets, but one of them blocked it with a shield. Clang! The silver hook swept against the shield, but the shield did not move at all. Clang! Clang! The silver hook in Yin Feizhang's hand swept out like lightning, instantly sweeping out hundreds of ripples. Even the space had a slight ripple. One must know that this was the Yuan continent, where the space was extremely stable. It was extremely difficult to break open the space. To be able to cause a ripple in the space, one could see how terrifying the power was. However, the silver hooks kept hitting the shields, and the triplets were as steady as Mount Tai. In the end, even Yin Feizhang's bloodline fusion couldn't break through the defense of the triplets. These 3 brothers are interesting. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Alright, I'm done. At this moment, a cold voice sounded, which made Yin Feizhang's heart tremble. He withdrew his bloodline and turned into a human with an ugly expression. The one who spoke was Yin Feng. What a piece of trash. You can't even deal with the ants of a few savage islands. Shut up. Yin Feng stepped forward with his hands behind his back and scolded coldly. Yin Feizhang's expression changed drastically. He glared at the triplets and stepped aside with his head lowered, not even daring to make a sound. Are you going to surrender and obediently sign the blood oath contract, or do you want me to do it myself? Yin Feng's gaze swept over the triplets. The 3 of us will never sign a contract. We won't be manipulated by others. At worst, we'll just die. One of the triplets said while the other 2 nodded. If you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Yin Feng's face turned cold. A layer of silver light emanated from his body. His muscles bulged slightly, and a silver domain spread out. Boom! Yin Feng suddenly attacked. His fist glowed with a silver light as he threw a punch at the triplets. A muffled explosion sounded in the air. Block it! The triplets roared. Thump! Yin Feng's silver fist landed on the shield, causing it to shake violently. The triplets' faces changed and they were forced to retreat. The three of them retreated more than a dozen steps before they could stabilize themselves. So strong. Everyone looked at Yin Feng with shock and disbelief. The strength displayed by the silver flying badge was already strong enough. Ordinary Heaven's favorites of the same level couldn't even take one move from the silver flying badge. However, the triplets were able to withstand Yin Fizhang's attack. But now, the triplets were forced back a dozen steps by Yin Feng's punch. This is spirit body. An innate spirit body. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Yin Feng's physical body was actually a spirit body. Yin Feng had yet to break through to the emperor level and was only at the supreme martial artist level. As such, his spirit body was only an innate spirit body. Lu Ming thought of Di Xian of the Di family, who also had an innate spirit body and amazing combat strength. Moreover, once an innate spirit body entered the martial royal realm, it could transform and become stronger and more amazing. No wonder this Yin Feng was so arrogant. He had an innate spirit body. Not bad. To be able to take one of my punches without being defeated, it is something to be proud of for someone from a mere savage island to have such an achievement. But just now, I only used 50% of my strength. Let's see how many punches you can take from me. Yin Feng said coldly and threw another punch. Hold on. One of the triplets roared as a true dragon appeared above their heads. The three of them used bloodline fusion and their shields expanded rapidly, covering the bodies of the true dragons. Thump! Yin Feng's punch once again landed on the shield, causing it to shake madly. Rings of terrifying sound waves spread out, causing some people's faces to change drastically. They were so shocked that they almost spat out blood. Bang! Bang! The triplets backed away as their dragon claws moved on the ground, blasting huge holes in the ice. If this was the Divine Ruins continent cluster, the ground within a radius of 10,000 miles would probably have exploded. The true dragon that the triplets had transformed into trembled and almost exploded. What? Yin Feng's face turned cold when he failed to take down the triplets with 2 consecutive punches. Chapter 1402, 1402 You're not even comparable to an ant. The man had no choice but to sign it. Then, a few more people signed the blood oath contract. With the blood oath contract in hand, Yin Feizhang came to Qiu Yingying and Qiu Haoshan and scolded, "Hurry up and sign." "I won't sign it." Qiu Yingying bit her red lips and said. "What?" Yin Fizhang's face turned cold. Yin Feng's face was cold and his eyes flashed with killing intent. He had personally made a move and displayed his powerful combat strength. Now, there were still people who didn't want to sign. They were completely ignoring him. "If you don't sign it, do you know the consequences?" Silver Flying Badge said coldly. "The Great Sovereign Secret Realm is full of danger. You made us sign the contract that we will be at your command in the Great Sovereign Secret Realm. We will become your chess pieces. When you encounter danger, you will let us go first and you will reap the benefits, right?" Qiu Yingying said loudly. His words caused many people's expressions to change drastically. That was indeed the case. If Yin Feng and the others were in danger in the Great Emperor's secret realm and they were asked to help, they would be in grave danger. At that time, they wouldn't even be able to keep their lives, let alone an opportunity. Some of the people who had signed the contract turned pale. "What did you just say?" "You're looking for death," Silver Flying Badge shouted. This was their original plan. They had come here to find some scapegoats to work for them in the mystic realm. He did not expect that Qiu Ying would directly expose him. Although your combat strength is strong, we have so many people here. If we work together, why would we be afraid of you? Also, the seniors of Dragon God Valley have summoned us over a vast distance. We haven't entered the Great Emperor's secret realm yet. I don't believe you can do anything to us. Qiu Ying said loudly. Qiu Ying's words made Yin Feng, Yin Feizhang, and the other two's faces turn ugly. Bitch, don't think that I don't dare to touch you. You're just an ant. Even if I kill you, what can I do? Die. Silver Flying Badge shouted angrily, and he threw a palm at Qiu Ying. Qiu Ying's expression changed as she hurriedly retreated. However, the Silver Flying Badge was extremely fast, like a green lightning bolt. It quickly blasted towards Qiu Ying. Little sister, no. Qiu Hao cried out. He wanted to help, but it was too late. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of Qiu Ying and threw a punch. Bang! This figure's punch collided with Silver Flying Badge's palm, and Silver Flying Badge was forced to take a few steps back. Lu Ming. Brother Lu. Qiu Ying and Qiu Hao exclaimed in shock. The figure that suddenly appeared in front of Qiu Ying was naturally Lu Ming. Previously, Lu Ming had not made a move. Because there was no need for him to do so. He didn't know anyone else at the scene, so why should he make a move? However, now that Qiu Ying was involved, Lu Ming had no choice but to take action. Brat, you dare to attack me? The Silver Flying Badge glared at Lu Ming coldly. You dare? Who do you think you are? Why would I not dare? What a joke. Lu Ming smiled faintly. Hearing this, Yin Feizhang's expression froze for a moment. Then, he revealed a ferocious killing intent and shouted, Die. The silver hook reappeared in his hand and he swept it toward Lu Ming. He decided to kill Lu Ming as a warning to others. Get lost. 9 streams of dragon power burst forth as he activated the prison-suppressing heavenly art and punched out. Boom! The terrifying fist force exploded with an ear-piercing sound, shaking the void. Silver Flying Badge's expression changed drastically. He felt a terrible force rushing toward him with an unstoppable force. His body trembled violently and he was sent flying backward. Bang! Silver Flying Badge's body hit the ice wall, and he spat out a mouthful of blood with the sound of bones breaking. Hiss hiss hiss. A series of gasps rang out in the venue. Many people were dumbfounded as they looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming had actually injured the Silver Flying Badge with one punch. Just now, the Silver Flying Badge's combat strength was obvious to all. It was definitely powerful. It had cultivated a domain-type martial arts technique and far exceeded the prodigies of the same level. However, it could not even withstand one move from Lu Ming. The contrast was too great. It turned out that there was such a powerful person among them. Qiu Ying and Qiu Hao were also dumbfounded. As expected of a person who has awakened the bloodline of the 9 dragons. Qiu Ying's beautiful eyes flashed with a crystal light. Ah, brat, I'm going to kill you. The Silver Flying Badge roared and struggled to get up. Buzz. However, a figure flashed and Lu Ming appeared in front of Silver Flying Badge. He grabbed Silver Flying Badge's throat and slammed him against the ice wall. Boom! The ice wall made a violent sound. Silver Flying Badge was like a toad that was hit by a brick. It let out a strange scream and blood flowed out of its mouth and nose. What are you shouting for? Do you really think you're strong? You're the one who calls others trash and ants. In my eyes, you're the ant. Lu Ming said indifferently. The Silver Flying Badge struggled desperately in Lu Ming's hands, but it was as helpless as a weak little chick. You think you're superior? You're just born in the Yuan continent and have cultivated the domain martial technique. Apart from the domain martial technique, who else here is worse than you? Lu Ming continued. This made many people clench their fists, and their confidence, which had been hit hard, returned. That's right, the silver flying badge only cultivated a domain technique. Its talent might not be better than theirs. In the future, if they also practiced and comprehended martial arts techniques, how could they be worse than the silver flying badge? It was just a temporary advantage. These people were the top geniuses of their respective continents. They had tough minds and quickly regained their confidence. Release him. At this moment, an extremely cold voice came from behind Lu Ming. It was Yin Feng. At this moment, Yin Feng's body was covered in a layer of silver light. Even his eyes were flashing with silver light. A bone-piercing killing intent was emitted from his body. Lu Ming clasped Yin Feng's neck and turned to look at Yin Feng with a faint smile. You're quite bold, and your combat strength is not bad. However, since you've been so arrogant the moment you came to Dragon God Valley, you'll have a miserable ending. Yin Feng said coldly. He looked at Lu Ming as if he was looking at a dead man. Arrogant? Hee, so you're saying that I'm going to be bullied by you and I can't even resist. If I resist, it's called arrogance. Is that the logic of a pig? Lu Ming sneered. Yin Feng's face turned even colder and his killing intent was bone-chilling. From the moment you said those words, you're dead. No one can save you. Oh. Was it? I don't know how many people have said this to me since I started cultivating, but in the end, they all became dead fish. I hope you won't be the next one. Lu Ming sneered. Don't compare me to those ants you've met. Yin Feng said. Hee, in my eyes, you're not even as good as an ant. Also, there's no need to keep this blood oath contract. Lu Ming threw the silver flying badge far away and held the blood oath contract in his hand. You dare? Yin Feng shouted. I'm so scared. Lu Ming sneered. His essential core burst forth and the blood oath contract turned into ashes. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.